Chapter 127. Forget it, this is good. Seeing that Garashi made the decision for him, Reikage no longer hesitated, but the next moment, he stared at Garashi. Wait, that kid also knows sealing jutsu? You know, a jutsu that can seal a tailed beast is definitely not a low-level jutsu. They are yunin, but every time they seal a tailed beast, they don't dare to be careless. How can they be as relaxed as this kid? Although it was partly because second last had been sealed, he was still in disbelief. Sandem-sama sighed and pretended to be angry. That kid is good at everything, but he has too many hobbies. Tell me, why would a medical ninja like him want to learn Fujitsu? I shouldn't have asked him. Reikage's face turned black, as if he had eaten a fly. The Mizukage was also uncomfortable. Obviously, they proposed to hold the Chunin exam, but they didn't have a sense of existence in the whole process. They felt like they were here to serve as a foil to Woodleaf and Yunin. Although his heart was bleeding, the Mizukage still forced himself to not lose. Forget it, at least we found a genius like Empress Shomiai. It's not a loss. Raza, who didn't have much expectation for the Chunin exam from the beginning, also calculated in his heart, this time, we formed an alliance with Woodleaf to fight against Rock Crypsis. It's not a loss. Only Kitsuchi, who was almost forgotten, was crying silently. We shouldn't have come, we shouldn't have come. As for the villagers on the spectator stands, they burst into deafening cheers when they saw the demonic cat's shadow being sealed. Great, I thought I was going to be killed. A 10-year-old Woodleaf genin can defeat Yunin's Jinchuriki, and even forcibly seal a tailed beast. Woodleaf's strength is really not comparable to other villages. It seems, it's time for us to make a choice. Oh, Garashi-senpai is really handsome, worthy of being the pride of our ninja school. What a terrifying talent. It seems that it won't be long before another powerful ninja like the Sannin appears in Woodleaf. Under normal circumstances, a Chunin exam wouldn't cause such a big sensation, but due to the intervention of Jinchuriki, the standard of this exam can no longer be measured by normal combat power. This also made the merchant ninjas from all over the world remember one name, Shimizu Garashi. Sandame also stood up with a smile and announced loudly, the final winner of this Chunin exam is Woodleaf, Shimizu Garashi. Of course, other candidates shouldn't be discouraged. Failure doesn't mean disqualification. After our selection, all candidates who meet the requirements of Chunin will be announced on the bulletin board. Now, please enjoy the relaxing time after the exam. At night, at Yunin's hostel. Reikage-sama, there's trouble. Tsudai said with a dignified face. According to the information we have gathered, after the Chunin exam, 4 or 5 small countries have contacted Woodleaf. They're just fence-sitters, don't worry about it. Reikage leaned on the chair and waved his hand calmly. With their knowledge, it's not surprising that they were scared by today's battle. He said with disdain. The relatively strong small countries are okay, but the weak ones, maybe the strongest ninja in the village is not as strong as Woodleaf, of course, they will be scared. Reikage sat up a little and said seriously, compared with those fence-sitters, Shimizu Garashi deserves more attention. With his talent, in just a few more years, he will grow into a big problem for our Cloud Village. A also nodded seriously, what he lacks now is experience. If he survives this war, he will grow at an unimaginable speed. Tsudai hesitated, but he has the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and his own medical ninjutsu is also very powerful. In this case, it's difficult for us to pose a substantial threat to him, right? Reikage smiled. The Flying Thunder God Jutsu doesn't mean everything. Don't forget how Naidame Naruto died. Tsudai's eyes lit up. You mean, let him be surrounded and killed like Naidame Naruto with a lot of burdens? Reikage nodded. A powerful ninjutsu like the Flying Thunder God Jutsu consumes a lot of chakra, and the amount of chakra needed to carry others with him is unimaginable. A slightly frowned. When Naidame Naruto escaped from Yunin, he consumed a lot of chakra, so there was no way to send his 6 disciples away. Naturally, we can't use this as a reference to evaluate the upper limit of Shimizu Garashi's transfer. The most important point is that today he showed the means to replenish chakra. Tsudai analyzed, this is not difficult, as long as we force him to open the seal before setting a trap. The reason can be the treatment after a large-scale war. A nodded, yes, if it's just a small-scale conflict, Woodleaf's medical class is enough, but in a large-scale war, Woodleaf will not ignore his power. Tsadai said with some hesitation, but what if he doesn't stay behind like Night-Aim Naruto? Reikage laughed and said, Tai, you are still too young and naive. Didn't Woodleaf tell us the way to kill him from their white fang? As said, if he uses the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to escape alone, we will let the undercover agent spread the word that he is a coward, tarnishing the jutsu left by Night-Aim Naruto. Reikage squinted his eyes and smiled. Words can also be used to kill people. Tsadai couldn't help but clap his hands. Reikage-sama is too insidious. Finally, don't set the trap too early, otherwise, the prey will notice it. To deal with this kind of genius, we have to have enough patience, flatter them, confuse them, and wait until they let down their guard. Reikage clenched his fist, then crushed them. Rock Crypsis' hostel. There were only 3 Rock Crypsis ninjas in the large hostel, and it was very cold and desolate. Yuchi-sama, this is a major dereliction of duty. Magic Leech lowered his head with a look of shame. It's not your fault, who told us Rock Crypsis to have no powerful geniuses. Kitsuchi sighed gloomily. Speaking of geniuses, Magic Leech said with a heavy face, that Shimizu Garashi is too terrible. If we let him grow, it won't be many years before he becomes another White Fang. Kitsuchi nodded. Such a genius is indeed terrible, but he has mastered the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. He is not so easy to deal with. It's not that there is no way, but... Magic Leech looked at Kitsuchi hesitantly. It may damage Tsuchikage-sama's reputation. Kitsuchi quickly understood. You mean, dust release? Magic Leech licked his dry lips. Dust release is the ultimate release. As long as it hits, no matter how strong his Flying Thunder God Jutsu and medical ninjutsu are, he will die. Kitsuchi took over the topic, and to achieve this, you need father to sneak attack him on the battlefield? Magic Leech was quite embarrassed. Asking Tsuchikage-sama to sneak attack a genin is indeed a loss of prestige. Kitsuchi shook his head. As long as it is beneficial to Rock Crypsis, father never cares about these things. Magic Leech said with admiration, this is also why we respect Tsuchikage-sama so much. But first, we need to determine which battlefield he will appear on. Kitsuchi muttered, Kirin's position is not clear, but both Rock Crypsis and Yunin should be fighting against Woodleaf. If he is active on Yunin's battlefield, we can only hope that those idiots full of muscles will realize his threat. Chapter 128. Inside Naruto's office. Kazekage-sama, it's an honor for this old man to visit. Sandem-sama smiled. Even if the other party was just a junior, he didn't have the slightest idea of taking advantage of his seniority. Naruto-sama is too polite. I still have a lot to learn from you. Although he had a little complaint at first, after thinking it through, Raza was happy. At first, he was actually worried about being implicated by Woodleaf, but after thinking about it carefully, with the current situation of Sand Crypsis, even if they didn't get involved with Woodleaf, they would be coveted by Rock Crypsis. After all, Sand Crypsis and Kirin are the weakest of the 5 great ninja villages, but Kirin is far away in the sea. With the sea as a barrier, Sand Crypsis is relatively easy to be the target of invasion. Thinking about it this way, joining forces with Woodleaf doesn't seem to be a bad choice. After sitting down, Sandem-sama asked straightforwardly, Kazekage-sama should have made a decision, right? Raza pondered for a moment and asked, if we form an alliance, what guarantee can Naruto-sama give us? Sandem-sama raised his finger. Information sharing, combat support, strategic cooperation. Of course, these guarantees are mutual. I hope Sand Crypsis can give us the same support. Raza shook his head. Not enough, we need materials. After saying that, he added, of course, we will buy at the market price. Sandem-sama was surprised. Sorry, I'm not questioning anything, but I heard that the Wind Country's daimyo has been reducing your village's funds? Ahem, Naruto-sama doesn't need to worry about this. Raza was a little embarrassed. Did he have to say that his biggest role as the Kazekage was mining? How could a Kazekage become a gold miner? Sand Crypsis is too difficult. Since it's a request from Kazekage-sama, then I will agree. Sandem-sama didn't hesitate too much. Although materials are very important during wartime, Woodleaf is a big family after all. so it's not a loss to use some materials to win Sand Crypsis. As the Kage of the village, they control the direction of the village. As for the details, naturally, it's up to the people below to discuss. Therefore, after reaching a consensus, the two of them started chatting happily. As he spoke, Raza said with emotion, "Your village's elite ninja training level is really beyond our reach. I hope that this Chunin exam will let the people in the village recognize the gap between us and the other ninjas." Sandem-sama smiled and waved his hand. "We are just lucky, there are a lot of excellent gen in this exam, and I heard, isn't there a genius puppeteer genius? Speaking, Raza's name. The villages, he and was, he s's, he disappeared face in the village's view. Sasori, who disappeared at the same time as the Kazekage, was most likely killed by the same person. Thinking of this, Raza suddenly proposed, "Naruto-sama, can you let your Shimizu Garashi go to Sand Crypsis as a guest for an exchange?" Sandem-sama was a little puzzled. "Why do you suddenly ask this?" Raza pondered. "On the one hand, I want the ninjas in the village to recognize the gap, and on the other hand, I learned some news in the past few days." News? The geniuses that emerged in this exam from Woodleaf seemed to have an inseparable connection with him. Raza's expression was very surprised. One or two can be said to be accidental, but so many, I think he has the power to discover or influence the people around him. So, I hope he can come to Sand Crypsis as a guest and exchange with our ninjas. Sandem-sama didn't directly agree. After all, Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis were hostile countries in the last war. Who can guarantee that Sand Crypsis will take the overall situation into consideration and not attack Garashi? Therefore, Sandem-sama just yawned and said, "We are now preparing for the war. How can we have time to be a guest? After the war is over, I will let Garashi be the representative of the delegation and officially go to Sand Crypsis. At that time, Kazekage-sama, don't be unwelcome." Raza also understood Sandem-sama's concerns, so he didn't insist. Then, as Naruto-sama said. 2 days later. In front of the Naruto building's notice. "Wow, so many people passed the Chunin exam this time. There are so many geniuses in this exam. Let me see, Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi, Kurinai, Asma, and Metke, Yunin's 2 Yuki. Wait, Yunin's people left after the exam. Strange, they didn't wait for the results to come out. Hey, I heard that Yunin's people aren't good at sealing, so they couldn't unlock the seal that Garashi left on Yuki. They were too embarrassed to ask us to do it, so they rushed back overnight to find someone to unlock the seal for Yuki." Garashi, who was outside the crowd, smiled slightly. He didn't put the seal on Yuki out of kindness. It's like putting a lock outside the door, and he was worried that other people's houses might not be safe, so he added another lock when he passed by. This time, it's safe, but the problem is that the owner of the house can't open it himself. You know, the Jinchuriki is responsible for unlocking the seal at a critical moment and dying together with the enemy. Now that the seal can't be opened, how can he be a deterrent? However, Yunin can't say anything. She can't blame him for saving her people, right? When Shizen comes back, she'll find that she's the only Chunin left. On the side, Asma smiled maliciously. If she comes back a little later, maybe we'll all be Chunin. Kurinai also covered her mouth and chuckled. Asma touched his chin. Speaking of which, the old man should call back Tsunade-sama and the others, right? Garashi chuckled softly. Maybe they're already on their way back. Outside the crowd, Marky walked over with a complicated expression. Maybe the next time we meet, we'll be comrades. He now knows that Garashi may go to Sand Crypsis after the war is over. Because Kazekage-sama and Zhongliang agreed that if the war lasts for 3 or 4 years, with Shimizu Garashi's talent, he will most likely be promoted to Chunin in the war, and he, as an accompanying person at that time, should also have the title of Chunin. Isn't this embarrassing for me, Marky? Before he finished, a Sand Crypsis ninja rushed out and shouted, Garashi-sama, we'll follow you from now on. Garashi smiled and replied, it's really reassuring to have reliable ninjas like you as companions. Marky's face turned black. Can't you bastards respect my feelings? At this moment, a feminine man with a dangerous aura came over. I'm sorry to interrupt your conversation, but I want to temporarily take Garashi-kun's time. Chapter 129. Drip drip. Accompanied by the sound of water dripping, Orochimaru and Garashi walked one after the other in the passage. The surroundings were a little dark, giving a cold feeling. Orochimaru-sama, why did you bring me here? Garashi looked around and asked. I thought Sushi-kun would be able to hold back from asking. Orochimaru laughed without turning his head. I'm sorry, it seems that my state of mind is not good enough. Garashi-kun is still as humble as before. Orochimaru stopped and turned to look at Garashi. Actually, I want to borrow your medical ninjutsu. Garashi wondered, if it's just medical ninjutsu, wouldn't Tsunade-sensei be better? If I let her know what I did, I may be killed, right? Orochimaru shrugged and continued to walk forward. Garashi followed behind. Did you do something that will make Tsunade-sensei sad? However, with Tsunade-sensei's character, even if you did something excessive, as long as you apologize seriously, you should be forgiven, right? After all, even Jiraiya-sama is alive and well. Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh. Jiraiya, that guy hasn't been killed yet, it is indeed a miracle. While talking, the two had already reached the end of the passage. Pushing the door open, there were a lot of science fiction equipment inside. At this moment, Garashi had the illusion of returning to his previous life. There were many animal specimens in the surrounding culture vessels, and in the middle of the bed, there was a familiar figure lying on it. Mizuki, he is. Garashi rushed over to check Mizuki's condition. Orochimaru didn't stop him and just quietly walked forward. What a powerful chakra, why is there in Mizuki's body? Garashi muttered to himself. It's the first Sama's cell transplant. Orochimaru answered. No wonder there was such a serious rejection. Garashi looked at Orochimaru with a dignified expression. Orochimaru-sama, can you explain what happened? Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Mizuki wants to obtain great power and the qualification to practice senjutsu from me. However, with his mediocre talent, if he wants to practice senjutsu, he can't even pass the first level of chakra requirement. So, I gave him a choice. Shushi could not help but smile bitterly. Is this the cells of the first eye? Orochimaru laughed twice. Mizuki's pursuit of power is really persistent. He actually survived the first level with perseverance. This has never happened in the previous experiments. Shushi could not help but ask, before? I'm sorry to let you come into contact with the dark corner. Orochimaru took out a reagent from the experimental table next to him and said while shaking it, in order to let Woodleaf regain the power to suppress the Kyuubi, Sensei and Danzo Elder conducted an experiment with the first Sama's cells a long time ago. But due to the large number of sacrifices, Sensei had to stop the experiment and permanently seal the relevant records. Garashi was silent for a moment and asked, does Tsunade-sensei know about this? Orochimaru smiled softly. Although Tsunade-sensei has never mentioned it, she has been estranged from Sensei after this incident. Orochimaru said with some emotion, she has a bad temper, but she's actually the most gentle one among the three of us. At that time, I thought she would go to Sensei and Danzo to settle the score. Garashi sighed. Orochimaru-sama, are you trying to push me and Sensei against each other? Don't be too burdened, you're just trying to save people. Orochimaru explained, moreover, I'm the one who used the first Sama's cells, it has nothing to do with you. Tsunade is not the kind of person who can't distinguish right from wrong. If it was an ordinary experimental subject, Orochimaru naturally wouldn't waste his breath, but Mizuki was different. After surviving the first stage, he was already a baby in Orochimaru's eyes. Garashi shook his head slightly. I'm indeed thinking too much. The duty of a medical ninja is to save people. After saying that, Shushi began to examine Shueimu again. This is a seal? After a while, Garashi looked to the side. It's a seal I set on Mizuki to suppress the powerful physical energy in his cells. Orochimaru explained. I need to temporarily remove the seal and observe the rejection reaction of Mizuki. You're a doctor, of course I'll listen to you. Garashi nodded slightly and carefully removed the seal. In the next moment, Shuei Mu's right arm began to sprout, as if he had used Jinkala to grow. Garashi's pupils shrank, and he quickly sealed it. Then, the tree fell from Mizuki's arm. Looking at a piece of wood that had fallen to the ground, Shushi muttered, "Such physical energy is indeed terrifying. As for the solution, I can only think of two ways. One is to suppress it with spiritual energy of the same level, and the second is to solve the rejection reaction of Mizuki's body." Spiritual energy of the same level. Orochimaru thought for a moment, then shook his head. Let's talk about the second method. The three Holy Land senjutsu actually had the effect of enhancing ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu, but relatively speaking, Mount Myaboku's senjutsu was more balanced. Shikatsu Forest leaned toward Yang style, while Ryuchi Cave leaned toward Yin style. It seems that Mizuki's senjutsu Ryuchi Cave was just right for him. However, to practice senjutsu, he first had to meet the requirements of a large amount of chakra, and to obtain a large amount of chakra, he had to solve the problem of Hashirama's cells, and to solve the problem of Hashirama's cells, he had to suppress it with powerful spiritual energy. This became a dead knot that couldn't be untied. It's very difficult. Garashi's expression was dignified. Rejection reaction is an inevitable phenomenon after most transplant operations, but the only difference is that the rejection reaction of ordinary people is far less intense. It's hard to imagine that after so many years, Shodame-sama's cells still have such powerful vitality. Orochimaru's eyes were filled with enthusiasm. Unlike Danzo and the others, he valued Shodame-sama's cells not because of the power of Mokuton, but because of the powerful vitality contained in those cells. Garashi-kun, is there anything I can help you with? Garashi raised his finger. First, I need to study Shodame-sama's cells. Orochimaru wasn't surprised, of course, whether you want to study it here, or take some of the cells back for observation, there is no problem. Garashi nodded. In addition to the cells, I also need the data of your previous experiments, Orochimaru-sama. Orochimaru was puzzled. You also want the data of those failed experiments? Garashi chuckled softly. Even if it's a failed experiment, it can help me avoid some detours. In the memory of his previous life, Orochimaru and Danzo actually started a second experiment in private, and because all 60 experimental subjects died this time, Kuroda temporarily gave up this plan. But what Orochimaru didn't know was that one of the experimental subjects survived and was picked up by Danzo, who became Woodleaf's Green Ambassador in the future. Therefore, not all of the experimental data in his hands were failures. However, Orochimaru didn't know the twists and turns in this matter, so he quickly agreed. No problem, I can give you all of my experimental data. That's great, I will try my best to research the results. Chapter 130. Half a month later, in Orochimaru's underground laboratory. It only took you half a month to come up with a solution. What an amazing talent. Orochimaru said sincerely. No, it's all thanks to Orochimaru-sama's experimental data. Garashi was also sincerely grateful. My data? Orochimaru shook his head. He naturally didn't think that his data could play a key role. There were countless unknown paths, and his data was nothing more than eliminating 60 wrong answers. Thinking of this, Orochimaru was even more emotional. Perhaps it's because you always remain humble that you can see further than others. Garashi couldn't help but smile. Orochimaru-sama, shall we start the operation as soon as possible? In front of the operating table. Mizuki now knew the price Garashi might have to pay, and he was extremely ashamed. He gained the power to help Shushi, but now, not only did he not help him, but he also needed Shushi's time and energy to heal him. He even risked being disliked by Tsunade-sama. Thinking of this, Mizuki slammed the bed board. Damn it, what the hell am I doing? Garashi smiled and comforted him. Don't worry about it, just accept the treatment with peace of mind. But even Orochimaru-sama was amazed by your perseverance. You won't fall here. Holding the belief that he must not let Garashi down, Mizuki lay down with a face of death. Seeing this scene, Orochimaru couldn't help but be amazed. Just a few words could make Mizuki have such a strong belief. It was hard to imagine what kind of leadership he had. The operation was very smooth, and soon, Woodleaf's second green messenger was fresh out of the oven. Yes, Mizuki's wood release was almost the same as Garashi's impression of the green wood release. Orochimaru frowned. Was this the power of the first generation to pacify the warring states period? But soon he didn't care anymore. Anyway, he just wanted Mizuki's cell activity data. Shuei Mu, on the other hand, was extremely excited. In his opinion, this level of power was already powerful enough. Needless to say, he had finally fulfilled the requirements of chakra, and finally, he was even closer to Garashi's back. Although I don't want to dampen your interest, it's best if you don't use would escape. Looking at Shuei Mu's excited face, Orochimaru poured a bucket of cold water on him. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome to explain. Shuei Mu also calmed down. Indeed, although the bloodline limit could be developed, with his talent, even if he said that he had developed it, no one would believe him. Thinking up to this point, Shuei Mu could not help but feel somewhat dejected. He had finally obtained a powerful strength, yet he had no way of using it. I understand. I will, Garashi suddenly interrupted, it just so happens that I have water and earth in my attributes. Why don't you let me develop Woodward's style and then tell the public that I taught it to water and wood? Orochimaru looked at him in surprise. Garashi-kun, it's not easy to develop bloodline limit. Shuei Mu also hurriedly said, Garashi, don't waste your energy on me. Garashi waved his hand and smiled. In fact, I also saw Empress Shomiai develop bloodline limit during the Chunin exam. That's why I had such a bold idea. She can succeed without any reference. I have Shuei Mu's help, so it should be easier than her. Or, Mizuki, you don't want to help me? Garashi must have said this to take care of my feelings. Mizuki was moved and shook his head again and again. Of course not. Although I don't know how to help, Garashi, I will do whatever you say. Orochimaru was a little helpless. The only one who can make me believe that it's easy to develop bloodline limit is you, Garashi-kun. Garashi smiled and said, just think of it as the arrogance of young people. Orochimaru smiled and turned away. It's arrogance to believe that. Would release. Garashi sighed and followed him out. It doesn't matter whether the wood release is strong or not, but the symbolic meaning is worth developing. If he can use it one night in the future, 2 days later, in the Naruto building's conference room. Naruto's advisor, and the village's jonin gathered together, and the atmosphere was very dignified. Just this morning, Yunin said that they will take the initiative to send troops to maintain the peace of the shinobi world. Sandaime was speechless. There's also the Rock Village. They said that we plotted to kill the Sandaime Kazekage and supported the Yondaime Kazekage as a puppet, and now they want to send troops to help the Sand Village. Danzo sneered, aren't they ashamed to say such a reason? Mitokado sighed, although I want to try my best to fight for peace, it seems impossible. Sandaime nodded, don't have any more illusions. I hereby declare that the war has officially begun. All the jonins in the conference room were short of breath. Even for them, the weight of the word war was too heavy. Seeing that no one objected, Sandaime continued, in order to deal with this war, we need to form 2 fronts, one east and one west. The west front will be led by Shimura Danzo, assisted by Akimichi Takei, mainly to deal with the threat from Rock Crypsis. The east front will be led by Orochimaru, assisted by... Sandaime hesitated for a moment, Minato, assisted by Yunin. As soon as his words fell, there was a commotion in the conference room. Compared to the other 3, Minato's weight was obviously not enough. Danzo frowned but did not speak. In his opinion, the east front was losing, and he could turn the tide. Minato awkwardly raised his hand, Naruto-sama, why don't you give the role of assistant to someone with more experience? Sandaime tapped his pipe, don't refuse, I believe you can do it well. Without giving Minato a chance to refute, Sandaime continued, in addition to the two fronts, we need to form a reconnaissance team, led by Hayashi Hyuga, a surprise team, led by Fugaku Uchiha, a staff team, led by Shikaku Nara, a perception team, led by Yamanaka Inoichi, and a medical logistics team, led by Nanoyu. Is there a problem? Everyone looked at each other, and Hayashi raised his hand and asked, Naruto-sama, how are we going to participate in the two fronts? Sandame explained, this is up to you to arrange. You can send teams to the two fronts to assist in the war. Hayashi nodded, then I have no problem. Sandame looked around, what about you? Any other questions? Orochimaru asked, what about Jiraiya and Tsunade? They are an indispensable fighting force for the village. Sandame replied, Jiraiya and Tsunade are on the way to recall them. At this time, Nanoyu asked with some embarrassment, Naruto-sama, since Tsunade-sama is returning to Woodleaf, shouldn't Tsunade-sama be the captain of the medical logistics team? The others didn't speak, but Danzo's small eyes stared, letting a medical ninja with hematophobia be the medical captain. What are you thinking? Tsunade has hematophobia, but her slug doesn't. Sandame said with dissatisfaction, and then said to Nanoyu, but Danzo is right, compared to Tsunade, you are the most suitable person to be the captain of the medical logistics team. Seeing this, Nanoyu had to agree, then. I will work hard. Chapter 131. The next day, in Woodleaf Hospital. The hospital, which used to be calm and peaceful, was also a little nervous and anxious because of the war. In an office. Aunt Yayoi, Kotoko-san, Yumiko-san, are you also selected to go to the battlefield? Garashi asked with some worry. After all, only a small part of the people left in Woodleaf, but as medical ninjas, even if we go to the battlefield, we will only treat the wounded in the rear. Yayoi explained and turned to worry about Garashi, but Garashi, you seem to be going to the front line to fight, right? Garashi nodded, I now belong to the 7th team of the Eastern Front, of course, I have to go to the front line to fight. Kotoko said angrily, this is too reckless, Garashi, you only graduated half a year ago. Yumiko was worried, Garashi, why don't you ask to be transferred to our medical logistics force? You are a medical ninja, it is reasonable to join us. Facing the hopeful eyes of the three, Garashi said with a smile, although I only graduated half a year ago, I am now a chunin. As a chunin, of course, I can't avoid my responsibilities. Kotoko said to herself as if it was a lifetime ago, yes, Garashi, you are already a chunin. Garashi continued, and, Yumiko-san, you all should have seen my chunin exam, right? All three of them nodded with pride. That was the chunin exam of more than a dozen ninja villages. It was already very good to pass the exam. As for winning the first place in all the ninja villages, that was something they didn't even dare to think about. Even this kind of thing can be raised to the honor of the village itself. Garashi smiled shyly, although it is a bit shameful to say this, but after mastering the Flying Thunder God technique, no one can compare to me in terms of life-saving ability. He didn't say how strong he was. In front of people who care about him, no matter how strong he is, he will be selectively ignored. So, he just needs to say how good he is at escaping. Sure enough, after listening to his explanation, the worried look on their faces immediately eased a lot, but they still seriously warned him, in case of danger, don't be embarrassed to run away. By the way, you must not give up on practicing the Flying Thunder God technique. Also, don't be stubborn. Then, he took out a few kunais and handed them over. Auntie Midai, if you run into any danger, just break one of these kunais. I'll sense that the technique has disappeared, and I'll use the other kunais to locate you and save you. Don't worry, I won't put myself in danger. Without waiting, Yumiko, where is Sister Yumiko? Why didn't I see her? As expected, Kotoko's attention was diverted. She said with a strange expression, Mesa is probably worried about her troublesome brother. Hospital Square. Yumiko of you, no. Just because you said I'm not allowed to go, I can't go? Yumiko. It is precisely because the war is difficult that all of us must step forward bravely. No matter how difficult it is, it's not up to a rookie like you who isn't even a genin to step up. After I apply for early graduation, I will be a genin. Just as Misha was about to go crazy, a familiar voice came from behind her. Sister Misha. Misha was overjoyed. She couldn't be bothered to lecture her brother anymore. I'll teach you a lesson later. However, who would have thought that her younger brother would be even more excited than her and rush out? Senior Garashi. With Garashi's extraordinary memory, even though he had been away from school for half a year, he could still recognize him at a glance. It's Big Xiong. Seeing that Garashi recognized him, De Xiong was even more excited. Senior, you still remember me? Garashi smiled. If I don't even know the members of the club, then I would be neglecting my duties as the club's president. Misa had a strange expression. You know each other? Of course, Garashi, senpai is the pride of our ninja school. De Xiong said proudly. Suddenly, his eyes froze. Wait, sister, how do you know senior? Misa patted her chest and laughed wildly. Because Garashi was brought out by your sister. De Xiong wasn't frightened by someone's neuroticism. Instead, he was shocked. So amazing. Misa struck while the iron was hot. If you know it's amazing, then listen to me. Don't think about early graduation anymore. De Xiong glanced at Garashi. Seeing Garashi nod at him, he had no choice but to agree. Okay, I know. Yayoi and the other two who came with them were shocked. Only now did they truly realize Garashi's influence. He didn't even need to say anything. Just a simple action was enough to convince those troublesome little guys. If they waited for their generation to grow up, perhaps Garashi would be able to gain his most loyal followers. Garashi didn't know how much shock his actions had brought to the others. He just took out a kunai and gave it to Misa, then repeated what he said before. Misa nodded emotionally. It's only been a few years, and now it's Garashi's turn to protect sister. De Xiong looked at them with eager eyes. That was a kunai given to him by his senpai. He really wanted it. If he didn't know that this kunai was related to his safety, he would have tricked his sister into giving it to him. It's almost time to gather. Aunt Yayoi, Misa, Ne-san, I'll be leaving first. Okay, then hurry up and gather. Be careful on the road. Watching Garashi leave, Yayoi sighed. Another war. I hope this time it will end soon. In the square near the east gate, ninjas were everywhere. It was lively and noisy. Garashi, over here. Asma greeted from afar. Garashi quickly walked over. Sorry, I'm late. Kurenai waved her hand. It's okay, we just arrived. Asma excitedly told the information he had gathered. Garashi, how many ninjas do you think there are here? Shushi looked around and muttered to himself, 8 to 10,000? Asma nodded. We have 10,000 ninjas on the east line, and 10,000 on the west line. As for the rest of the special forces, each unit has about 500 to 800 ninjas. In total, we have 23,000 ninjas. Garashi wasn't surprised. In the manga, the number of ninjas in the Fourth Shinobi World War was about 80,000. However, this doesn't mean that the number of ninjas in each village was equal. Woodleaf, Yunnan, and Rock Krypsis had relatively more ninjas. Moreover, at that time, the number of ninjas in the Third Raikage's battle against 10,000 Rock Krypsis ninjas. Although the Raikage died of exhaustion, at least thousands of Rock Krypsis ninjas were killed. At this time, Orochimaru walked to the front. I'm sorry to have involved everyone in the war again, but this is not something we can choose. The enemy wants to take everything away from us, and the only thing we can do is to protect our homeland with our own strength. Those who agree with me, follow me. Chapter 132. It's already the third day since they arrived at the border, and everyone's initial nervousness and excitement has gradually dissipated. Unlike the fierce war everyone imagined, although the days on the border are not peaceful, they are definitely not fighting every day. Except for a small number of ninjas who carry out assassination or intelligence missions, most ninjas' task is to patrol and patrol. Do you think the war is as simple as the ninjas of two villages fighting on the battlefield? In the camp, Kosuke Maruhoshi, who is also a 10,000 years genin, laughed. If that's the case, the previous two shinobi world wars wouldn't have lasted for several years. Garashi nodded secretly. If there is a small war every 3 days and a big war every 5 days, with the number of ninjas in the major ninja villages, the population can be wiped out in a month or two. The real situation is that there may be a small-scale conflict in 10 probing, and a large-scale war may break out after 10 small-scale conflicts. In this way, it's not bad to have 1 or 2 large-scale decisive battles a year. Asma sighed, but it's too boring to patrol every day. Kosuke Maruhoshi said sternly, you must not have such slack thoughts. War is about constant probing, and then seizing the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. And your slack thoughts will become the enemy's opportunity. Seeing the old man said so seriously, Asma didn't dare to neglect. I know, I will be careful. That's good, that's good. Kosuke Maruhoshi nodded with relief, and immediately laughed at himself. In fact, I am the one who is least qualified to say such words. Because of my short-sightedness, my companions were sacrificed in the mission. Garashi and the others were silent. They also heard that because of this matter, he swore to Nidame Naruto that he will only be a genin forever. Although his own strength is not inferior to a jonin, he is still a jonin. Seeing the atmosphere was a bit dull, Asma said, it seems that it's our turn to patrol. Kosuke Maruhoshi's eyes lit up. Oh? Are you going to use that ability? Garashi smiled and nodded. I'll have to trouble you to protect me again. Hearing him being so polite, the ninjas around laughed. What kind of trouble is this? We should thank you for saving us a lot of trouble. Thanks to you guys, our camp is not as scattered as the other teams. Hurry up and show us the legendary immortal techniques. It didn't take long for him to enter Sage mode. Then, his perception quickly extended with the help of the forest. Zone 47 is safe. Zone 46 is safe. Seeing this, Kosuke Maruhoshi couldn't help but sigh. You can get information just by staying here. No wonder you're bored. Asma smiled embarrassedly. Actually, Garashi can't use Sage mode too many times a day. We still have to patrol the area for the rest of the time. Perhaps Red was worried about causing misunderstandings, such as why Shushi did not want to help more people, so she explained, Shushi's Sage mode can only sense this area. It won't work if the range is larger. Kosuke Maruhoshi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm not talking about him. At this moment, Garashi suddenly said with a grave expression, a large number of Yunin ninjas have appeared in Area 43. There might be around 300 of them. What? There are 300 troops. Kosuke Maruhoshi's expression changed greatly. It's only the 3rd day, and they sent so many people. The ninjas around also changed their expression. This is troublesome. We only have 20 people left in the camp. It's impossible for them to be Yunin's opponent. There might be 5 to 8 jonins in a team of 300 people. Hurry up and use your summon beast to send information to the central camp and ask for support. At this time, Garashi's expression changed again. Not good, there is a team moving in that direction. If we don't change direction in time, they might encounter them in 3 minutes. Kosuke Maruhoshi hurriedly asked, Garashi, how many people are in that team? Garashi's expression was serious. About 30 people. Oh no. Is there any way to inform them as soon as possible? Summon beasts can only pass information to each other. We can only give it a try. This is war. Luck also determines life and death. Everyone's mood was a little low. The feeling of knowing that the ninjas of the same village were getting closer and closer to death was too uncomfortable. Garashi shook his head slightly. Next, I might have to trouble you to protect me once again. Kosuke Maruhoshi nodded, but he was still puzzled. Of course, but Garashi, what are you going to do? Garashi sat cross-legged. Since ordinary means won't work, I will try using my soul. Spirit Transformation Technique. In this regard, Shushi was not worried that he would end up like Kato Duan, who had used the spiritualization technique and been killed by the enemy's sneak attack on his main body. On one hand, he had already used Sage Mode to explore the surrounding situation. On the other hand, his soul was far stronger than Kato Duan's. He could split his soul into two and leave a part of it in his body to guard against unexpected situations. The next moment, a pure white spirit floated out from Garashi's head and flew in a certain direction at an unimaginable speed. Everyone in the camp was stunned. After a while, someone spoke with difficulty. If I remember correctly, spirit transformation technique seems to be an S-class ninjutsu, right? Flying Thunder God Jutsu, Sage Mode, and now spirit transformation technique, does he have no limit? In other words, Garashi actually didn't use his full strength in the last Chunin exam? Seeing everyone's crazy look, Asuma was relieved. Finally, he wasn't the only one who suffered. Somewhere in the forest, in a bush. I think everyone is tired. Let's rest here. Takuma, Naruto, you two are responsible for guarding. Yes, Hayashi-sama. A group of Hyuga clan members sat down. Some closed their eyes to rest, and some took out soldier food pills to replenish their strength. I thought you would let me pretend to be you on the battlefield. Hizashi, who had a similar face to Hayashi, sneered coldly. In your eyes, is your brother a coward who doesn't even dare to go to the battlefield? Hayashi didn't get angry and just asked calmly. As a member of the main family, if you die on the battlefield, the Hyuga clan will be in big trouble. Hizashi sneered, after all, you don't have a caged bird that can guarantee that the Byakugan won't spread. Don't you have a branch family to protect me? Hayashi laughed. So it's them. Garashi's spirit body floated in the air and swooped down after muttering. Oh, I won't guard. Hizashi said insincerely. Seeing a white light suddenly rushed into Hayashi's body, his expression changed greatly. What's wrong with you? Damn it, what was that just now? Hayashi raised his right hand with a strange expression. Don't worry, it's one of us. At this moment, in Hayashi's space of consciousness. Hayashi-sama, I'm sorry to meet you in this way. Oh, little brother Garashi, what's the matter? Although they didn't have much interaction before, Hayashi still greeted him very warmly. After all, anyone with a little bit of eyesight can see Garashi's potential in the future. Powerful talent, many friends, Naruto's direct descendant, such a person must not be offended. Garashi knew that time was of the essence, so he went straight to the point. Hayashi-sama, there is a team of 300 Yunin in front of you, please retreat as soon as possible. Chapter 133. What? 300 Yunin ninjas? Hayashi asked with a trembling voice. It's less than 3 minutes away from here. Garashi added. Hayashi didn't have time to ask where Garashi got the information. He hurriedly returned his consciousness to his body, and then used the Byakugan to look ahead, instantly seeing everything in front of him. I can't see, damn it, is this beyond the Byakugan's observation limit? Hayashi no longer hesitated and directly ordered, everyone, immediately enter the alert state, clean up the traces, and then retreat to Area 45. Although they didn't know why the patriarch said this, the Hyuga clan's hierarchy was very strict, and naturally they wouldn't question the orders of the main family. Without any objection or hesitation, everyone immediately acted, and in just a few seconds, they cleaned up the traces left behind, and then quickly retreated from the right side of the valley. This kind of efficient and swift action made Garashi amazed, but of course, this wasn't without its disadvantages. If the main family's decision was wrong, it would lead others into the abyss. Fortunately, in Hayashi's view, Garashi was absolutely trustworthy. If even a member of Naruto's direct line like him betrayed, then the Woodleaf clan should be disbanded as soon as possible. At the same time, in front of the forest. According to the information from the spies, Woodleaf divided the border into 100 areas, and each camp is patrolling 5 to 6 areas, and these areas can overlap, which means that one area may be patrolled by several camps at the same time. Get to the point. Yes, Troy-sama. We are responsible for areas 40 to 50, and try to remove some of Woodleaf's strongholds before they react. At this moment, a Yunin ninja suddenly exclaimed, "Troy-sama, my ninja eagle sent a report. There seems to be a group of Woodleaf ninjas escaping at 10:00 in front of us, and there are about 30 of them." Finally found Woodleaf ninjas. A Yunin ninja was surprised. "Be careful, it's a trap set by Woodleaf," someone on the side reminded. Just as Troy was in a dilemma about whether to proceed according to the original plan or to eat the fat meat in front of him, a surprised voice helped him make a decision. "My ninja eagle just sent another report. The eyes of the escaping ninjas are pure white. It's a ninja from the Hyuga clan." Troy's eyes lit up. As one of the two giants of Woodleaf, Hyuga naturally received a lot of attention, especially on the battlefield. The Byakugan can play a much greater role than the Sharingan. Have your ninja eagle continue to follow them. Troy decisively ordered, "Everyone else, follow me." In the valley. While moving forward at full speed, Hisashi couldn't help but ask, "What the hell is going on? Is it because of that white light?" Hayashi didn't intend to hide it. He's Tsunade-sama's disciple. Hisashi was shocked. Shimizu Garashi? The genius who suppressed Yunin's Jinchuriki? Hayashi nodded. It was him who used the spiritualization technique to inform me that there is a team of 300 Yunin ninjas in front of us. An army of 300. Hisashi was first shocked by this huge number, and then he was shocked again. Spiritualization technique? He has mastered other S-class ninjutsu. Hayashi shook his head and sighed. When we were in school, we said that Uchiha Fugaku and I were geniuses, but compared to him, the two of us are really insulting the name of geniuses. Hisashi nodded. That makes sense. Hayashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Suddenly, a Hyuga clansman ran over in panic. "Hayashi-sama, Yunin's ninja eagle has been following us in the sky, and there seems to be someone following behind us." "What?" Hayashi hurriedly looked up and saw an eagle hovering in the sky. "Oh no, they still found us." Seeing Hayashi's face, Hisashi instantly understood his brother's difficulty. "You want to distract yourself to communicate with him, right? Oh, let me carry you on my back." Hayashi didn't argue and nodded decisively. "Thank you." The next moment, his mind sank into the space of consciousness again. Humph. What a troublemaker. Hisashi coldly snorted. In the space of consciousness. "Garashi-san, don't say anything, I can know everything that happens outside through you." Garashi asked in a deep voice. "Senpai, what are you going to do? Do you want to kill that ninja eagle?" "It's too late." Hayashi shook his head, then stared at Garashi and asked, "When you found Yunin's trace, you should have reported it to the central camp, right?" "Yes. I might have to trouble you to make another trip. Help me ask which camps are willing to send reinforcements. If there are enough people, we might be able to fight back. But if there aren't enough people..." Hayashi took a deep breath. "Please tell the village that I will destroy my eyes before I die." "I understand. Thank you," Hayashi said in a deep voice, but he found that the spiritual body in front of him didn't disappear. "Well, is there any other warning?" Shushi blinked his eyes. "My main body is already asking." Hayashi couldn't help but be shocked. "Solen too? Your spiritual body is strong to this extent?" At the same time, in the camp. Seeing Garashi suddenly opened his eyes and stood up, the people around him hurriedly asked, "Garashi, how is it?" Garashi shook his head and said in a heavy tone, "We were still discovered. Damn Yunin. What should we do? Should we go and rescue them?" At this time, Maruhoshi asked, "Garashi, who is the team being chased?" "It's the Hyuga clan's reconnaissance team, even their clan leader is inside." As soon as his voice fell, there was a sudden panic. "This is troublesome, the Hyuga clan is a very important force. If the eyes of the Hyuga clan fall into Yunin's hands, we will be very passive. We must find a way to rescue them." It's indeed realistic, but war is also about value. If it's an ordinary ninja, they may hesitate whether it's worth it, but the importance of the Hyuga clan on the battlefield has obviously overwhelmed the scales in their hearts. Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Woodleaf was able to win the previous 2 wars for a reason. These people know that nothing will happen if they don't reinforce. Once they reinforce, no matter how smooth the situation is, someone will inevitably be sacrificed, but they still made the decision without hesitation. 27 people from Camp 41, 15 people from Camp 46, 33 people from Camp 47, plus 17 people from our side. Maruhoshi was analyzing when Asuma suddenly shouted. No, aren't we 20 people here? The ninjas around looked at each other and laughed. Hey, you rookies should stay in the camp. You are all geniuses, and it's more valuable to survive than us. Kurenai's face turned red. Your strength may not be as strong as mine. Asuma also said angrily. Geniuses who don't dare to go to the battlefield, what's the use of being strong? A group of ninjas looked at each other. They didn't expect the attitude of the little guys to be so firm. Garashi calmly analyzed, in fact, there's no need to be so pessimistic. The ninjas of the Hyuga clan are all elites, not to mention, this team also shoulders the task of guarding the Hyuga main family. Their strength is definitely not weak. Even if they face Yunin ninjas, they can probably fight 3 people at once. Coupled with the people in our camps, the number gap is actually not so big. If the ambush is successful, maybe we can even kill the other party. The most important point is that we don't have time to continue to hesitate. Listening to Garashi's words, a group of ninjas was faintly excited and no longer worried about the 3 of them. Seeing that no one objected, Garashi continued, next is to discuss the ambush location. What do you think, senpai? Although a group of ninjas is experienced, most of them are used to being commanded, and they can't make up their minds for a while. Garashi, what do you think we should do? The only place that is very close to our camps and on their escape route is Thunder Canyon. Garashi recalled the border map and then asked, what do you think? Everyone nodded in agreement. Yes, that's what I think. Me too. In that case, I'll have to trouble you seniors to inform the rest of the camps to be in place. No problem, we will inform them now. Kosuke Maruhoshi said inside, alas, I hope our ambush will not be discovered by Yunin. Garashi slightly raised the corner of his mouth, don't worry, leave it to me. The explanation of detection and perception is in the author's words below. If you have doubts, you can read it. Chapter 134. At this moment, in Yunin's team. Damn it, the Hyuga clan's ninjas are really good at taijutsu, they can run so fast. Fortunately, we've also practiced it. Troy frowned and shouted, don't complain, this is the land of fire, if we don't hurry up, we might be discovered by Woodleaf's ninjas. At this time, a Yunin ninja came over and said, Troy-sama, I think something is wrong, since they have found us, why don't they run away separately? Troy asked in a deep voice, are you worried about a trap? The ninja who spoke shook his head, although I don't think Woodleaf is stupid enough to use the Hyuga clan's ninjas as bait, it's always right to be careful. Troy nodded, Sith, let your ninja eagle pay attention to the surrounding movements, if there are any changes, report to me immediately. Yes. Sith replied, and then couldn't help but say, Troy-sama, actually, I thought of a possibility. Troy said casually as he ran forward. Tell me about it. Sith tried his best to follow behind, I'm thinking, will the Hyuga clan's main family be in the team in front? They don't want to separate, maybe they're ready to be caught up with? Troy was shocked, the Hyuga clan's main family. The reason why he chased after them was because he knew the importance of the Hyuga clan on the battlefield, so he wanted to take the opportunity to eliminate this team. But if the Hyuga clan's main family was in the team in front, the meaning was completely different. It meant that he might be able to win the precious Byakugan for Yunin. Even if it's not confirmed whether the Hyuga clan's main family was in the team, it's just a possibility, and it's worth it. Thinking of this, Troy suppressed the excitement in his heart, speed up, we must not let them escape. At the same time, in Hayashi's space of consciousness. Garashi relayed the results of the discussion to Hayashi. Hayashi took a deep breath and promised, "I will remember everyone's kindness, and when we return to Woodleaf, I will send them gifts one by one." Garashi shook his head slightly. "Let's get through the difficulties in front of us first. Although it's easy for me to say, the difference in numbers cannot be ignored." Hayashi nodded approvingly. Then, he said regretfully, "The key is the ambush. I should have listened to you and gotten rid of that ninja eagle earlier. If I do it now, I'm afraid our purpose will be exposed. No, it should be that they didn't listen to me. That ninja eagle will lead them to the abyss." After saying that, Garashi's spiritual body flew out of the space of consciousness and charged towards the eagle in the sky. Screech. Hearing the eagle's cry, Hayashi's eyes flashed with understanding. "So that's how it is. It's all thanks to you. Lightning Gorge." "No more, not a single one." Asuma sighed with a distressed expression. The eyes of the surrounding ninjas were full of shock. Asuma's stock of explosive tags alone was equivalent to 1/3 of the total number of 90 of them. Was this the power of money? Phew. There are less than 100 of us ambushing 300 yunin. It's so exciting just thinking about it. I think it's too exciting. There are so many of us lying in ambush here. Will we really not be discovered? Garashi was also worried that he would be shot down by his allies, so he informed them in advance. "The ninja eagle used by the Yunin for reconnaissance is already under my control. You guys be careful later." Everyone who was worried suddenly exclaimed, "Huh? The ninja eagle is already under your control? Huh, it's so easy to team up with Garashi. He has considered everything for us." Asuma and Kurenai nodded their heads. Although they would often be attacked by Garashi, it was really easy. Garashi's expression changed slightly. "They're almost here. Be careful and hide." Everyone did not dare to say anything and quickly hid. In front of Lightning Gorge. Lightning Gorge, this name sounds ominous. A Yunin ninja said unhappily. Troy was also alert. "Sith, is everything okay?" Sith made a "don't worry" gesture. "Blackie told me that everything is fine." "That's good." Troy nodded. "Speed up, they won't have any stamina." Boom. 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 The sudden explosion almost covered the sound of thunder in the sky. Waves of fire were noisy, rocks were splashing, and the canyon on both sides was shaking violently. Large pieces of rocks were constantly falling down. 1/3 of the 300 Yunin team was killed in an instant, and the rest were not much better. Almost all of them were injured, and they had to dodge the falling rocks in panic. The Hyuga people who had just escaped the canyon were also scared. If they were a few steps slower, they would have been like these Yunin. But what the hell is going on? Seeing that the effect of the trap was far beyond their expectations, everyone who was lying in ambush was ecstatic. No one knew who shouted, but everyone jumped out one by one. Fire release, great fireball technique. Wind release, breakthrough. Earth release, earth flow river. As if to vent all the chakra in the body, long-range ninjutsu were thrown out one by one. It's reinforcements. It's our Woodleaf's reinforcements. Join them and fight back together. A group of Hyuga ninjas woke up from their stupor and joined the battle, making the Cloud ninjas who were already overwhelmed even worse. Why did it become like this? It turned out to be Woodleaf's trap. "Sith, you bastard." Troy was furious. "Didn't I tell you to take care of your bird?" However, no one answered. Sith died on the spot when the first wave of explosive tags detonated. Under the 2 waves of attack, only 50 or 60 people survived. And the lowest of these people was a Chunin. Break out. Although he wanted to kill all the Woodleaf ninjas in front of him, Troy barely maintained a trace of sanity and threw out the square shuriken in his hand. He's Yunin's magnet ninja Troy, don't get hit by his shuriken. The experienced Kosuke Maruhoshi warned while rushing to resist. Many people have heard of the other party's name, and they suddenly panicked. What? A magnet ninja like Sandame Kazakage? This guy is very powerful, be careful. Be sure to avoid his shuriken. Having said that, some people still couldn't avoid Troy's square shuriken. Looking at the wound on his arm, a chunin panicked. What will happen if I don't dodge? Troy's eyes were cold. You will die. The chunin, who was magnetized, seemed to have become a magnetic pole, attracting the square shuriken at a speed of shuttling through space. The next moment, his whole body was directly dismembered. Damn, this bastard has this kind of strength. So powerful. As expected of the magnetic Troy. This cruel scene awakened everyone from their excitement. Even if they have the upper hand now, they can't underestimate any enemy, especially when the other party is a jonin. At this moment, an eagle's cry suddenly sounded. Hey! Hearing this sound, Troy's eyes were bloodshot, and seeing the ninja eagle flying towards him, his heart was furious. Damn beast, I will kill you. Although he is now anxious to break out, it won't take too much time to kill a ninja eagle. Just as he was thinking this, the ninja eagle's eyes flashed, and a white light shot straight towards him. What is this? Troy subconsciously raised his hand to block. The white light entered his body, and the next moment, his movements slowed down. Of course, a jonin's body can't be controlled as easily as a ninja eagle, but Garashi doesn't want to control Troy's body. What he wants is to cause Troy a little trouble when fighting for control of his body. In the blink of an eye, Garashi has already rushed up, and in front of Troy's horrified eyes, he pressed a Rasengan on his head. Battlefield first kill, Yunin Jonin. Chapter 135. Seeing this shocking scene, the entire battlefield was speechless. Even after 2 waves of attacks, the opponent is still a jonin after all, and even among jonins, the magnet-release Trojan is considered strong. However, such an expert had been killed by a child. Furthermore, it was an instant kill without any hesitation. This absurd scene caused many of the Yunin ninjas who were still persevering to collapse. Impossible, this must be an illusion. Ha, break. Illusion, break. On the other hand, the few superiors who were still alive were more resilient. It's him. The Reikage-sama specifically told us about him. Looks like I won't be able to make it out alive today. Then I'll drag him down to hell with me. The 3 Yunin jonins who were closest to Garashi revealed ferocious expressions. They no longer tried to escape and instead used body flicker jutsu to attack Garashi. However, Garashi was even faster than them. He used the Flying Thunder God technique and returned to the middle of the crowd. Seeing Garashi surrounded by layers of protection, the 3 of them were so angry that they vomited blood. They were really vomiting blood. After being injured by the explosion of the explosive tag and being overwhelmed by a large wave of ninjutsu, they were already mentally and physically exhausted. You bastard, do you still have the dignity of a genius? Damn it, fight me one-on-one if you have the ability. Garashi tilted his head and looked at them as if they were idiots. I'm just a chunin, why would I want to fight with you? The corners of the Yunin jonin's mouths twitched crazily. A newbie chunin? Why don't you tell Troy that? See if he believes you. Kosuke Maruhoshi shouted, there's no need to talk about ninja morality with these Yunin, everyone attack together. Although he is only a genin, Kosuke Maruhoshi is strong and experienced, and his words still carry a lot of weight. As soon as his voice fell, a large wave of ninjutsu rushed towards Yunin and the others. Unlike the previous round, due to the lack of coordination, in the previous round, the water escape and fire escape would often cancel each other out, reducing the power of the attacks. That was why the Yunin were able to escape. However, they were not so lucky this time. Under the joint attack, they were defeated immediately. More than half of the original 50 to 60 Yunin ninjas were killed. Seeing this scene, Shushi also felt sad. Unless one reached the level of Uchiha Madara, the suppression of numbers would never be able to be ignored. Even a jonin will be suppressed by the ninjutsu of a dozen chunins. Not long after, all the Yunnan ninjas in the Thunder Gorge were killed. On Woodleaf's side, other than a few people who were accidentally killed when they tried to stop the enemy from breaking through, the rest were all alive. The result of this battle left everyone in disbelief. They were all mentally prepared to die, but in the end, this was it? Haha. Yunnan's ninjas are really useless. Even though it was 3 against 1, we still managed to kill them. Don't get carried away. It's all thanks to Garashi that we were able to achieve this result. Yes, and Garashi's bird as well. Even Yunnan's magnet release Trojan was instantly killed. Is Garashi really a Chunin? At this time, the Hyuga ninjas also learned about what happened from Hayashi, and they looked at Garashi with eyes full of gratitude. After Hayashi expressed his gratitude to the others and promised to compensate the ninjas who died in the battle, he solemnly walked in front of Garashi. Garashi, this time I really can't thank you enough. If you need my help in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. Garashi blinked and said, no need to wait for the future, let's do it now. Hayashi was taken aback and said with a dumbfounded expression. Please say it. Garashi said seriously, please use your strength to win this war for Woodleaf. Looking at Garashi's sincere eyes, Hayashi took a deep breath and nodded heavily. I will do it. Central Camp. I didn't expect a stinky snake like you to be able to command a party. Jiraiya leaned back in his chair and sighed with emotion. In the last war, the 3 of us teamed up to challenge Hanzo. It's still vivid in my mind. Time is such a ruthless existence. Orochimaru laughed. But if you want to be the commander, it's not too late. Forget it, I don't want to be your deputy. Jiraiya waved his hand in disgust, and then said proudly, and I believe that Minato will do a better job than me. Orochimaru nodded. That's right. Isn't it? Jiraiya said proudly, but suddenly he felt that something was wrong. Wait, what are you saying? At this time, the Yamanaka ninja in charge of delivering information rushed in. Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, there's news about the Yunnan squadron. Orochimaru was still calm, but Jiraiya quickly asked. Did Minato's reinforcement team catch up? No. Kurumakes was stunned, and then said excitedly, it's Camp 45 that joined forces with several surrounding camps to reinforce at the same time. Not only did they save the Hyuga team, but they also successfully destroyed the Yunnan team. What? Did they contact more than a dozen camps? Jiraiya's eyes widened, but he quickly denied his guess. No, those camps are too far away, it shouldn't be so fast. Kurumakes answered truthfully. There are a total of 4 camps, 95 people, even including the Hyuga team, there are only 125 people. Only so few people, then they. Jiraiya was interrupted by Orochimaru before he finished. What about our losses? Less than 10 people. Even Kurumakes himself was in a trance when he said this. Cough. Jiraiya choked on his own saliva and asked incredulously. Less than 10 people, how is this possible? Are Yunnan's ninjas idiots? Orochimaru also asked, how did they do it? Kurumakes just shook his head. I don't know the details, but I heard that under the leadership of Shimizu Garashi, they successfully ambushed Yunnan. Oh, if it's him. Jiraiya said with emotion, but he heard Orochimaru sigh with him. It's not surprising if it's him. Jiraiya looked at him suspiciously. When did you know so much about Garashi? Orochimaru smiled calmly. Who told you to come back now and miss the good show of the Chunin exam? You know, even all snakes are afraid of him. Jiraiya was really fooled. He was shocked. What? Even that bastard snake dowager is scared? After he came back, he also heard about what happened in the Chunin exam, but most of it was the battle between Garashi and the Jinchuriki. He really didn't know about the changes in the Forest of Death. Orochimaru smiled softly. After all, it was almost killed this time. Seeing that the two were getting further and further away, Kurumakes asked eagerly. Orochimaru-sama, what should we do next? First, confirm the specific situation. If it's really his credit, then spread it out. Orochimaru squinted his eyes and smiled. War needs heroes, whether it's to raise morale or to attack the enemy. Jiraiya hurriedly shouted, "Wait, you're putting him on the fire to roast him. He will be assassinated as a thorn in their side." Orochimaru glanced at him as if he was an idiot. After this Chunin exam, do you think Yunin will still be indifferent? Even if we don't take the initiative to spread it, Yunin will never let him go. Jiraiya was stunned. He didn't personally experience the Chunin exam, so he was indeed a little slow on the attitude of the villages. Orochimaru smiled and patted Jiraiya on the shoulder. Have more confidence in him, Garashi-kun is a man who can create miracles. Chapter 136. Yunin Village, Raikage Building. What did you say? Raikage stared at Tsutai and roared. It's the news from Woodleaf himself. Tsutai wiped the sweat from his forehead and said with difficulty, he said that the squadron led by Troy was ambushed by Shimizu Garashi and wiped out our people at a very small cost. With that, he added, but they didn't spread the specific details. Damn it, it's that little devil again. Raikage punched the desk in front of him and was very angry. That's an army of 300 ninjas, such a military force can even attack a weak country. More importantly, there are 6 jonin, each jonin is a valuable asset of Yunin, they are important for him to dare to start a war. But the war just started a few days ago, his capital has been greatly reduced. Thinking of this, his heart twitched. Raikage-sama, we must quickly come up with a countermeasure. Tsutai said anxiously. Woodleaf's propaganda is too big a blow to the morale. Raikage said with a cold face, then let's let AI and killer compete. Tsutai was shocked and hesitant. Are they going to go on stage so soon? Isn't it too early? Raikage said indifferently, a greenhouse can't raise strong people, only the battlefield is the best school. Tsutai took a deep breath, I understand, I will let them prepare. Half a month later, the central camp. In order to prevent Yunin from knowing the location of the camp will be changed every once in a while, even the location of the camp will change accordingly. I don't know where we will be changed this time, in short, I hope it will be close to the front line. Bordered soil set outside the camp. It's better not to, I don't want to save you. Kakashi said indifferently. Bastard Kakashi, who wants you to save me, no, who said that this uncle will be captured by the enemy. Obito's face was mad, and then he saw Kakashi's cold eyes shining brightly. Senpai. Seeing Kakashi left him, Bordered Soil was surprised at first, but immediately followed him excitedly. Senpai, I heard that you annihilated a large group of enemies some time ago. Shushi, I heard that you killed that Magneton Troy with your own hands. That's a very powerful jonin. It's really amazing, we haven't even seen the enemy's shadow. As a famous figure on the battlefield, Garashi was surrounded by people as soon as he returned to the camp. Of course, this is because they haven't experienced the war, otherwise they wouldn't have such superfluous thoughts. Shushi smiled bitterly and raised his hands. Sorry, let's talk about this later. I have to go to the field hospital now. Hospital? Did something happen? His face became serious. I just got the news that a large number of ninjas were seriously injured. Hearing Garashi, no one dared to stop him. Then, Shushi, you should hurry over. It's too sudden, how could this happen? Rin raised her small hand nervously. I am also a medical ninja, can I also go with you? Garashi nodded. Of course, there is a shortage of people over there. As if to encourage herself, Rin waved her hand vigorously. Thank you senpai, I will work hard. Field hospital. Although it's called a hospital, it's actually a large tent temporarily set up. Before he went in, he could hear painful screams coming from inside. Ah, kill me, kill me. Bastard, where the hell are the doctors? As soon as he entered the tent, a pungent smell of blood and medicine mixed together rushed to his face, but Garashi's face didn't change, he just glanced at everyone with a serious and heavy gaze. There are about 170 wounded people, but there are less than 50 medical ninjas in charge of treatment. Each camp is equipped with a medical ninja for first aid, and the team carrying out the infiltration mission will also be equipped with a medical ninja to increase the survival rate of the team. In this way, even the camp can't leave too many medical ninjas. Rin covered her small mouth in surprise. So many people. Garashi shook his head slightly. There's no other way, we can only find external help. Summoning technique. The next moment, a slug appeared in the tent. Hey, I'm back. Slug, please split out to treat everyone. Yes, Roger. As soon as the voice fell, the big slug split into dozens of small slugs, and then jumped toward the wounded people. Is it Tsunade-sama? That's great. We're saved. Idiot, it's Garashi. Ha, little brother Shushi is too great. At this time, Bordered Soil, who was left outside, asked. Red Senpai, what happened? Asma, who was about to answer, was stunned. Why don't you ask me? Bordered Soil's small face was tangled. I still can't, looking at your face, I really can't call you senpai. Red covered her mouth and snickered, then said seriously, I heard that Yunin sent a Jinchuriki. Jinchuriki? Bordered Soil wondered. The 2 Yuki? Is she so powerful? It's a ninja named Killer Bee, the Hachibi Jinchuriki. Red's eyes were full of fear. I heard that he used a super terrible power called Bijudama as soon as he appeared, and killed hundreds of ninjas in an instant. If Minato-san didn't use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu in time to transfer the Bijudama, maybe no one will be able to come back this time. At the same time, in the camp's conference room, the atmosphere was very serious. Yunin, these bastards, directly used the Hachibi Jinchuriki. Do they think we don't have one here? Jiraiya patted Minato's shoulder and shouted. Call Shina Kushina out, at worst, we will start the Bijou War. Minato smiled bitterly. If Shina Kushina knows, she will be happy to come out. Jiraiya laughed. That's it. It's not that simple. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Most of the consultants in the village are not willing to take this risk until the last moment. Jiraiya stared. What risk can there be? Orochimaru chuckled. For example, Jinchuriki lost on the battlefield, or Kyubi broke free from the seal, or even the little girl took the opportunity to escape from Woodleaf. There are too many similar reasons. Do I need to say more? Jiraiya's mouth twitched. Can't you guys think more normally? Minato said seriously, Shina Kushina will never leave Woodleaf. Orochimaru spread out his hands. It's useless to say this to me. In some people's eyes, the little girl's first identity will always be the descendant of the land of whirlpools, and our Woodleaf, cough, cough, don't talk too much. Jiraiya tried to smooth things over. The problem now is how to deal with the threat of the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. You know, the Hachibi is second only to the Kyubi. Although the Hachibi is powerful, it's not impossible to deal with it. Orochimaru's face was gloomy. The key is how to deal with its threat on the battlefield. At our level, we can only kill a dozen enemies at a time, but a Bijudama is different, it can wipe us out. Jiraiya nodded, then looked at Minato and asked, Minato, can you transfer every Bijudama away? Minato's eyes were dignified. If he is alone, I can do it, but he and the other ninja named AI cooperate too well. I'm not sure if I can transfer each Bijudama while they are working together. Orochimaru added, that A is the son of the third Reikage. He inherited the name A, so he's actually a reserve Reikage. His strength is not weaker than us. Jiraiya said without hesitation. That's easy, he'll be left to me, you can't leave. Orochimaru decisively refused. I'm not the Reikage's opponent alone. Then what should we do? Jiraiya stared. Should we call the old man out of the village? Minato raised his hand weakly and said, I have a proposal, or, let Garashi cooperate with me. Chapter 137. Garashi? Jiraiya looked at Minato with a puzzled look. What do you think? Garashi is not weak, but it's absolutely impossible for him to be the opponent of the Hachibi Jinchuriki or that right? Orochimaru's eyes were calm. Minato-kun, tell me your thoughts. Minato said seriously, although the Hachibi Jinchuriki is powerful, the root of his strength lies in his perfect compatibility with the tailed beast. As far as he is concerned, he is still too young. Jiraiya nodded subconsciously. He heard that Killer Bee is only 14 years old, which is really too young compared to the real strong. Orochimaru muttered, is it because of physical limitations? Minato nodded in agreement. The complete transformation is also a big burden for the Jinchuriki. This time, it ended early because he couldn't support it and changed back to his original form. And the biggest advantage of the ninjas who practice the Flying Thunder God Jutsu is that they are entangled. If I can entangle and give the Jinchuriki to Garashi to deal with, as long as Garashi can survive the transformation period, Yunin may be the unlucky one. They may even be afraid of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, so they don't dare to transform on the battlefield. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. I think Minato is too optimistic. The complete form is the strongest, and the Baijidama is the most threatening, but it may be diverted by the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. The burden of the human form is the least, but the pressure given is not enough. In this way, they will most likely choose to use the half-tailed beast to defeat Garashi first. Although the strength is not as good as the complete form, the half-tailed beast is much smaller in size and has a great advantage in speed. Don't worry, Garashi already has experience in dealing with the half-tailed beast. Orochimaru flicked the bangs on his forehead. Although the Nibi is not as good as the Hachibi, the battlefield is not as narrow and limited as the arena, and it is enough to play the advantage of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. If they really fight, it's hard to say who will win and who will lose. In my opinion, the real trouble is their cooperation. Cooperation? Minato was puzzled. Perhaps Mine-kun doesn't know? Yunin has always had a tradition of pairing their shadows with partners. One person inherits the name Ai, and the other inherits the name Bai. The deep bond between them makes them invincible on the battlefield. Orochimaru's tone was serious. So, even if the two of you deal with one of them separately, it is very likely that they will seize the opportunity and use a moment of perfect cooperation to defeat each of you. Fetters? Minato felt that it was a pity. If Shina Kushina could play, the two of them would definitely be stronger than the Yunin brothers. Jiraiya pulled his hair hard. Then what should we do? Don't tell me that Minato and Garashi should seize the time to cultivate tacit understanding? Orochimaru shrugged. Don't look at me. There's no such thing as tacit understanding between us. Jiraiya jumped on the table, squatted in front of Orochimaru, and pointed at his nose with a look of disgust. Who wants to have tacit understanding with a stinky snake like you? Anyway, you can only have tacit understanding with a toad for the rest of your life. Ah. You bastard. Seeing that the two of them suddenly went off topic, Minato quickly stood up and said, We've been discussing for so long, shouldn't we ask for Garashi's opinion? Jiraiya and Orochimaru looked at each other. That's right, this mission isn't very safe. If Garashi accidentally loses an arm or a leg, won't they be directly crippled by Tsunade? After asking for his opinion, even if something happens, they can at least avoid it. But Tsunade doesn't seem to be the kind of person who will listen to explanations. Not good. Seeing the color in the eyes of his sensei and senpai, Minato suddenly woke up. If something happens to Garashi during the battle, won't he be beaten up when he returns? Not good. Field hospital. Phew. I seem to have run out of chakra. Rin struggled to wipe the sweat on her head and cast a look of admiration to the side. Compared to senpai, I'm really far behind. Garashi chuckled softly, You've done well enough. I'm aiming for you, senpai, just as Rin said excitedly. Yamanaka Kaze hurried in. Excuse me, Garashi, Orochimaru-sama wants to see you now. Rin puffed up her cheeks. That's too much. Senpai just came back from outside, and before he had time to sit down, he was called to save people, and then you call him away. Can't you let senpai rest? The injured ninjas around were also dissatisfied. That's right, Garashi-san is already very tired. He's just a child. Yamanaka Kaze knew that he was in the wrong, so he had to put his hands together. Sorry, it's really urgent. Garashi shook his head helplessly. Well, I'll go with you. Soon, under the guidance of Yamanaka Kaze, Rinsei arrived at a simple temporary conference room. Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, Minato-san. Garashi greeted them one by one. Come and sit down. Jiraiya responded enthusiastically. After a little greeting, Orochimaru went straight to the point. Garashi-kun, you should have heard about what happened on the battlefield today, right? Garashi was ready. Hachibi's Jinchuriki? Orochimaru nodded and continued. Yes, Yunan's Killer Bee is a perfect Jinchuriki who can control the Bijidama, and his Bijidama is the biggest threat we've ever encountered on the battlefield. Garashi naturally understood Orochimaru's concern. If it was a private battle, none of them would be afraid, but on the battlefield, the threat of Bijidama is too great, it can easily destroy the entire camp. The most important thing is that they can't hide. After all, they can avoid the Bijidama, but the ninjas behind them can't, which means that they can only use the method of transferring or blocking to break the Bijidama. Orochimaru's voice was heavy. With Garashi-kun's intelligence, it shouldn't be difficult to guess that the only way we can break the Bijidama is the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. However, the cooperation between Killer Bee and another powerful ninja named A is too good. It's difficult for Minato to transfer all the Bijidama, and Jiraiya and I have to guard against Raikage's attack, so, I understand. Garashi looked calm. So, you want me and Minato Dage to block Yunan's Jinchuriki? Jiraiya rubbed his palms and smiled. If you don't agree, then forget it. I'll go back to the village and kidnap the old man, fight against Killer Bee. With Minato Dage's cooperation, this is a good opportunity. Garashi's heart flashed with this idea, and then said in a firm tone, everyone is risking their lives for this war, how can I back down? Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, please let me go, I will do my best to cooperate with Minato Dage. Orochimaru couldn't help but praise. Garashi-kun is worthy of being the one who comprehended the will of fire. Very good, then it's decided. Jiraiya sighed helplessly. Then you should hurry up and break in. The bond between Yunan's brothers is not easy to deal with. Garashi slightly shook his head. How can this kind of thing be done? The bond between the two brothers can't be broken in a short time. Orochimaru also agreed. With Raikage's character, it won't be long before he launches a second attack. Garashi, you don't have to go back to the camp. Stay here and cooperate with Minato several times. Chapter 138. The meeting ended. Walking out of the tent, Garashi was about to talk to Minato about his idea, but he saw Minato's serious expression and couldn't help but ask, Brother Minato, are you thinking about how to cooperate? Hearing Garashi's voice, Minato woke up from his contemplation, and then said with great interest, Garashi, I heard from Sensei that Yunan inherited the names A and B. The two have always been called the A and B combination. I think, should we also give our combination a better name? Garashi suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Then what do you think, Brother Minato? Minato clapped his hands. Yes, how about the Spiral Flying Thunder Sky Dance Jitsun combination? Shushi sucked in a breath of cold air. I think. Minato rubbed his chin and thought, no? What about the Wood Leaf, Tiger Shinobi World Destruction Dragon combination? Garashi's eyes gradually became dull. Actually, Minato's inspiration broke out again. The Thunder Arrow 10-4 Light combination seems good, and if it doesn't work, the Wood Leaf, Gemini Flying Thunder God Golden Light Dance Roar combination is also good. Garashi sighed. Brother Minato, promise me, don't use your talent when naming your child in the future. Fortunately, Naruto used the name of the protagonist in Jiraiya's book, otherwise, would he call him Golden Light Invincible Shining Gale style? In order to prevent Watergate from continuing on this topic, Shushi hurriedly said, Brother Watergate, I have some different ideas about the cooperation this time. Minato naturally knew the priorities of the matter and immediately got into the mood. Garashi, you say it. Garashi said seriously, according to Orochimaru-sama, Yunan's A and B combination has always cultivated tacit understanding since childhood. In just a few days, let alone surpassing them, it's difficult to even get close to that level. Minato nodded. This kind of thing is indeed not something that can be done with talent. Alas, if only it could be as simple as practicing ninjutsu. Garashi continued, therefore, we might as well shift our attention from developing tacit understanding to the cooperation of the Flying Thunder God. With Minato's intelligence, he naturally understood Garashi's idea in an instant. You mean, mark each other with the Flying Thunder God technique? Garashi nodded. We can teleport to each other's side in an instant and start a simple and crude 2 versus 1 battle. Minato was also getting into a good mood. I heard from Sensei that their combination technique is to attack from the front and back at the same time. This means that they can only use the combination technique when they are separated. Garashi continued, as long as they split up, we'll fight 2 against 1. If they converge, we'll disperse quickly and completely disrupt their rhythm. Minato seemed to have opened the door to a new era. In the past, he was the only one who used the Flying Thunder God technique. Naturally, he didn't have many choices. Now that 2 people were using the Flying Thunder God technique at the same time, there seemed to be many new tricks to play. Thinking of this, Minato felt his hands begin to move. Then let's try our best to familiarize ourselves with our opponent's tactics in the next few days. Nyo Thunder Hot Sword. 2 galloping thunder flashed, only to hear the sound of an explosion. The neck of the stone colossus standing on the flat ground was broken. Very good, Bai, your strength is getting closer and closer to mine. Not enough, not enough, this strength is not enough, I want to continue to eat meat, yo. Several people next to him have long been accustomed to Killer Bee's rap. Naturally, they were not surprised. Tsudachi in the field checked the broken neck of the stone colossus and stood up excitedly to report. Reikage-sama, by AI, and B's Neo Thunder Hot Sword has surpassed the previous ABs. Their combination will definitely become the nightmare of those wood-leaf ninjas. Reikage looked at the 2 with satisfaction. Even I don't dare to take your attack. A was a little unhappy. B wants to transform into Hachibi on the battlefield. There is no room for us to cooperate at all. You're wrong, A. Reikage said with a serious look on his face. Konoha's Orochimaru is not an easy person to deal with. Since he knows about the existence of Bai, he will never let such a big threat go. A frowned. Dad, you mean that Namikaze Minato? Reikage solemnly said, he can transfer B's Bai Jidama, and easily escape from the battlefield under your joint attack. That guy's application of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu is even above that of Shimizu Garashi. A said with some depression. This time I was careless, next time I will never let him escape. Next time? You think there will be a next time? Reikage coldly snorted. Woodleaf's people are not fools, and they will definitely equip him with powerful companions. Maybe it will be his Sannin sensei. A's eyes suddenly brightened. In other words, next is the real battle between B and me? Killer B was also cheerful. The cooperation is about to begin, and all the enemies will die, yeah. Don't be careless, your goal this time is not to kill how many enemies, but to kill that Namikaze Minato. Reikage seriously warned, to deal with a ninja with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, Nyo Reikage is your only chance. Yes. B, let's hurry up and practice. Time is tight, we can't make mistakes, the enemy is not weak. 5 days later, in a forest in the rear. Fire release, Great Flame Bullet. Earth release, Swamp. The 2 Jiraiya used ninjutsu back-to-back in 2 directions, but Garashi and Minato easily dodged them. The essence of a ninja was wandering and sneak attacks. Standing still like this, their thoughts and movements were naturally seen through at a glance. Jiraiya certainly knew that he would be passive if he continued like this, but he really had no choice. Garashi and Minato stood opposite each other. If his 2 clones attacked one person at the same time, it meant that his back was exposed to the other person's eyes. If they attacked separately, one of them would immediately move to the other person's side, and then use despicable means to bully a 33-year-old ninja like him. In desperation, he could only move back to back like this, and the result was that he became a live target because of his inconvenience. After another round of long-range attacks, Jiraiya finally couldn't stand it anymore. "I don't want to play anymore, you guys are too shameless." Minato said softly, "I'm really sorry to trouble you, sensei." Garashi also said, "Thank you, Jiraiya-sama, for accompanying us to experiment with tactics." Hearing their words, Jiraiya was embarrassed, and after laughing awkwardly, he sighed, "I don't feel anything about the Flying Thunder God Jutsu alone, but with two of them together, it's really too shameless." As he said that, he gloated, "Hee hee, I hope that Yunan's A and B team can still maintain their normal mentality after meeting you guys." At this time, the contact snake on the side disappeared with a bang. Seeing this, Jiraiya's face became serious. The summoned beast has been summoned back, which means that the battle is about to start again. Chapter 139. In the temporary conference room. The Jonins who participated in the meeting had a serious look on their faces. Although they knew that Yunan wouldn't give them too much time, they still felt unprepared when the war came. After all, some of them are still immersed in the shock brought by the Bijadama a few days ago. Orochimaru sat at the head of the table and clenched his hands. "Time is tight, I won't say much, everything will proceed according to the pre-war plan, get ready to act." Seeing that Orochimaru was so concise and didn't even mention the Hachibi Jinchuriki, a Jonin couldn't help but ask, "Orochimaru-sama, how should we deal with the threat of the Bijadama?" Orochimaru no longer concealed it. "You don't have to worry about the Jinchuriki, just leave it to Minato and Garashi." Many Jonins were surprised. "What, Garashi?" Many of them knew that Garashi was called by Orochimaru a few days ago, but they didn't think about it. Many of them even thought that Orochimaru deliberately did it for Yunan's spies. Because they all know that Garashi had a very weak advantage in the Chunin exam, and even relied on sealing techniques to barely defeat the Nibi Jinchuriki. It's a very simple deduction. Hachibi Nibi Perfect Jinchuriki Normal Jinchuriki 14 years old 8 years old got. Killer B Yukigarashi is almost equal to Yukigot. Killer B Garashi. Thinking of this, a group of Jonins hurriedly dissuaded. "Orochimaru-sama, isn't this decision too hasty? Garashi's talent is very strong, but he's too young after all, such a heavy responsibility may overwhelm him." At this moment, there was a gloating laugh outside the conference room. "Huh, you stinky snake's prestige is not that good." Jiraiya walked into the tent and glanced at the crowd confidently. "Of course, I'm on the same side as him on this issue. Even if you don't trust him, you should at least trust me. It's obvious that you're the one who's more unreliable." The corners of the Jonins' mouths twitched a little. However, since the two Sannin said so, it did indeed make them re-examine their previous views. Seeing that his words were indeed more effective than Orochimaru's, Jiraiya couldn't help but proudly wink at someone. Orochimaru thought that Jiraiya was just trying to show off. He said indifferently, "Yunan's 1,000 troops are already here. There's no time for you to hesitate." Very quickly, the troops left in the main camp were mobilized. Because Reikage took the initiative to appear on the other side of the border, Orochimaru and Jiraiya went to intercept him, and the position of the highest commander of this unit fell on Minato. Fortunately, he used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to transfer the Bijadama and save most of the ninjas on the battlefield, which has won the respect of all the Jonin, and no one questioned his decision. "Jizura-san, Tang-san, I'll have to trouble you to deliberately guide our ninjas to the sides, and don't get close to the center of the battlefield." Hearing Minato's instructions, Inuzuka Jaw and Akimichi nodded seriously. As Jonin, of course, they knew how terrible the Hachibi's battle was. Even the aftermath of the battle may cause damage to ordinary ninjas. And these kunai, please, accidentally, leave them on the battlefield. Minato took out a few kunai and handed them over. If you look carefully, you can find that there are very hidden jutsu marks on them. Inuzuka Jaw's eyes lit up, and he understood Minato's meaning. "Are we going to pretend to retreat and try to give the battlefield to them?" Minato nodded and looked ahead solemnly. Leave the rest to me and Shushi. Walking to the edge of the forest, Yunin was already waiting on the opposite side. For most of the Yunin ninjas who practice taijutsu and like to rampage, the wide and flat plains are their favorite. Konoha's ninja also knew this and deliberately stayed in the forest and didn't go out. Of course, these advantages don't mean much to the protagonists of today's war. On the opposite side, a directly walked out of the formation. Namikaze Minato, you're finally willing to come out. Minato was a little confused. You're looking for me? You're the first one who can stop me and be from taking action, and even leave calmly afterwards. A said, and suddenly an arc of lightning appeared on his body, so, I'm going to wash away this shame today. As his voice fell, he turned into blue lightning and went straight to Minato. This scene shocked everyone. In front of thousands of woodleaf ninjas, he rushed directly into the enemy's base. Wasn't this too reckless? Although they complained, there were only a few who could really react and attack. In the lightning chakra mode, A's speed was almost beyond the understanding of normal human beings. However, Garashi and Minato were not among them. Noticing A's attack, the two of them threw their kunai gently. Ai's fist went straight to the tip of Minato's nose. The fist was so strong that it almost stirred up a gust of wind, making Minato subconsciously squint his eyes. But in the next moment, he appeared behind A, holding the thrown kunai in his hand and was ready to stab A's back. Idiot! How can I fall for the same trick twice? Ai laughed and chopped with a backhand chop. I've won this time. Thunder dominates water. Boom! The hit Minato turned into a smoke and dissipated. Damn it, I fell into a trap again. Seeing this situation, A didn't understand what was going on. He looked back in shock and anger, only to see Minato holding a kunai and stabbing it at his eyes. The cold light of the kunai's tip was constantly magnified in A's pupils. Just as the cold light was about to occupy his whole vision, a thick and big octopus leg slammed him out and took A's place to be cut off by Minato. This sudden turn of events caused everyone's hearts to tremble with fear, and they were so nervous that they couldn't breathe. However, not everyone was attracted by this scene. Opportunity. Among the crowd, Shueisha, who has been holding back, quietly used his chakra thread to move the direction of the kunai he threw before, and when everyone's attention was attracted by the octopus leg, he teleported in front of A and pressed the kunai hard. Super Jade Rasengan. Even with the defense of Ai's armor, he was caught off guard by Garashi. Blood splattered, and even his chest caved in. Big brother. Killer Bee's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. With a roar, he directly entered his half-tailed beast mode and rushed towards the place where Ai had been sent flying. He finally retained some rationality and knew that his complete form was not as fast as the half-tailed beast mode. Garashi and Minato looked at each other tacitly and rushed to A's position. But the speed of the two was much slower than Killer Bee in the half-tailed beast mode, and they saw the scarlet monster rushing to A's side. Fortunately, we made it in time. Killer Bee was rejoicing. Suddenly his pupils shrank violently, because he saw two strange marks on his big brother's body, which seemed to be Flying Thunder God technique. Chapter 140. Killer Bee looked up and found that the two bastards teleported over and attacked his brother with an oversized Rasengan. Why didn't they kill my brother before I got here? Could it be that they want to use my brother to drag me down? Although he had some doubts in his heart, Killer Bee didn't have time to think about it. He gritted his teeth and stood in front of A, while he tied her with his tail and planned to use chakra to heal him. Ha ha ha, you were fooled. After perceiving the fluctuation of chakra, A suddenly opened his eyes and was about to take revenge, but he was inexplicably tied up. Huh? What happened? The same doubts emerged in the hearts of Killer Bee and A. Before they could ask, Killer Bee was sent flying hundreds of meters away by two Rasengan. A knew that it was Killer Bee's tail that tied him and didn't dare to violently break free. As a result, he was dragged on the ground. At this time, the ninjas on Yunin's side woke up from a dream and hurriedly stepped forward to surround Killer Bee and A. On the other hand, Konoha's side burst into enthusiastic cheers. Team A and Team B, who had given them a hard time in the last battle, had been defeated as soon as they came up. This strong contrast made them feel unreal. It's really amazing. I didn't even have time to react, and the enemy was defeated. It was obviously so difficult last time. How come it's suddenly turned around today? The enemy's strength has not weakened. If there is a difference, it may be that we have one more person this time. It's Garashi. It must be because of Garashi that our combat power has undergone a qualitative change. Yes, the cooperation between the two of them is not a simple 1+1, but a multiplication. Huh. Something seems wrong. On the other side of the battlefield. Cough, brother, are you okay? Killer Bee is worthy of being the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Under the situation of two Rasengan, he spat a few mouthfuls of blood and struggled to stand up again. Of course, this is also because he entered the half-tailed beast mode in advance. If he was in the normal human state, he would definitely be seriously injured. I'm fine. AI spat out a mouthful of blood. Although his lightning armor is powerful, after all, it still can't compare to the healing ability of the tailed beast mode. After being hit by Odama Rasengan and being dragged all the way, his physical condition naturally can't be much better. Let me heal you, big brother. Killer Bee couldn't care less about rapping now. He hurriedly transmitted chakra. However, AI didn't care. He just stared at the two people opposite him. How did you find out that I didn't faint? He now understood that the two bastards must have seen through his act, but they didn't say anything. They deliberately led him to receive their attacks. However, there was still one thing that he did not understand. How did they see through his perfect acting? Your quick wit is worthy of praise, but it's a pity that you used it on the wrong person. Garashi said with a smile. Minato also looked at him with a strange look. Garashi is the top medical ninja in the ninja world. After being injured by him, you pretended to be unconscious. What were you thinking? AI, who barely recovered, was ashamed and angry. He rarely used tricks twice. The first time, he wanted to use his reckless character to lure the other party, but he was used by the other party. The second time, he pretended to be unconscious to lure the other party to attack him, but he was used by the other party again. What a great humiliation. This is a serious insult to his IQ. Just as AI was getting more and more irritable, a face that made him disgusted suddenly appeared in front of him. Yunan looked at Garashi, who suddenly appeared in their encirclement, and her brain stopped working. Is this, taking the initiative to die? But before they could react, they saw Garashi put his right hand on AI's shoulder and teleported back to Woodleaf's camp with AI. Looking at the gradually fierce eyes around him, AI's mouth twitched. It's over, he seems to have been schemed against again. If he can't get rid of the flying thunder god Jutsu, he will have to be careful not to be beheaded while sleeping. The next moment, a large wave of ninjutsu poured on AI. Even if the level of ninjutsu used in a hurry is not high, it still made him cry out in pain. Yunan's side reacted and hurriedly rushed forward. Attack! Save AI-sama! Go, let these Woodleaf ninjas know our power. The rest of Woodleaf ninjas also faced the enemy head-on, and the battlefield instantly became chaotic. Roar! An extremely terrible chakra wave condensed on the battlefield. Garashi and Minato looked and saw a Bijudama gradually forming in Killer Bee's mouth. Half-tailed beast can also use Bijudama, but the power is not as good as the complete form. Even so, this kind of power can't be ignored. Minato didn't dare to neglect and quickly rushed forward to transfer the Bijudama. But at this moment, A, who was previously submerged in the ninjutsu flood, suddenly broke out. Kid, don't think you have won, transferring me is the biggest mistake you made. At the same time, the octopus foot that was cut off by Minato at the beginning also turned into Killer Bee's appearance, and rushed toward Garashi in the same posture. Nyo Thunder Hot Sword. The three of them were very close to each other, and for the A and B combination who are good at speed, this distance is not even a millisecond. It can be said that their cooperation is even beyond the limit of humans' nerve reaction. In such a short time, even Garashi couldn't react, and the next moment, a big head was directly broken. Huh, Shimizu Garashi. I laughed loudly, and then saw the person whose neck was broken turned into the appearance of the third Reikage, and couldn't help but scream in horror. Oyaji. Boom. An attack came from nowhere and hit A, who was in a state of confusion. Big brother, wake up. The chakra in his body was disturbed, and finally, A woke up, but he was hit hard again and again, and his state has fallen to the bottom. This bastard dared to trick me into calling him daddy. I was ashamed and angry at the same time, but at the same time, there was a burst of fear in his heart. Although it was partly due to his heavy injuries, to be able to make him fall for it in an instant, this fellow's illusions were ridiculously powerful. He now finally understood the pressure that the candidates in the Chunin exam faced with this guy. This bastard is obviously younger than me, but his strength is stronger than me in my normal state. How did he train? Killer Bee was also very afraid, whether it was the ninjutsu mastered or the sense of fighting, this guy is perfect. On the other side, Garashi looked at the two and thought, finally, he changed. With the memory of his previous life, he naturally knew that the Hachibi's tail can become a clone, so he didn't ignore the octopus leg from the beginning. In this way, I have a reason to seal his octopus leg. Chapter 141. Ai Chang took a deep breath and cheered up again. B, let your main body continue to use Baijidama to distract Minato, the two of us will try to kill him. Although their initial mission was to kill Minato, that was because they didn't expect Shimizu Garashi to appear. In this situation, killing Shimizu Garashi was undoubtedly more cost-effective. Seeing that his brother was still so strong and was not affected by the previous failure, Killer Bee also relaxed a little and gestured towards Garashi. You bastard, you idiot, let me beat you into a fool. The famous A and B team besieged me, should I be honored or unlucky? Having said that, Garashi didn't worry much. Under normal circumstances, it would be very troublesome for him to deal with either of them. However, one of them was half dead, and the other was a clone, so he had no pressure to deal with them. It's time to go, B. A reminded, then activated his body and rushed up. My charm is shining, please take care of me. Killer Bee said while pulling out the short sword behind him. Garashi also calmed down and watched the movements of the two carefully. At the moment A's heavy punch came, he teleported to a big tree next to him. Killer Bee, who had been observing Garashi's foothold, quickly changed his direction and went to meet him. Although his reaction was already very fast, he still missed. However, he was not frustrated, but he crushed the kunai that Garashi left on the tree. Seeing this, A changed his previous violent offensive, and while chasing Garashi, he erased the coordinates left by Garashi in advance. Damn brat, I want to see how many jutsu you set in advance. However, a minute passed. Garashi's coordinates seemed to be endless, and he didn't seem to be affected at all. I couldn't help but ask angrily, how many jutsu did you set? With his speed, he could chase 2 or 3 times in a second. In this minute, he even erased more than 100 coordinates. Garashi sighed, who knows? Can you help me count it? Bastard, we won't make it in time if this continues. I knew that the pressure of continuously firing Baijidama was great, and Yunin didn't have much time left. Once again, he rushed past Garashi's afterimage, but this time, he did not change direction midway. Instead, he rushed to the side of the battlefield without slowing down. Woodleaf Chunin, who was fighting a Yunin ninja, saw an angry thunder rushing towards him. What is this? Are you trying to force me to face you head-on? He really doesn't have any morals. Shushi sighed. Just like an excellent matador, if the bull didn't look at him and rushed towards the audience, it would be very troublesome. Luckily, there's about enough time. Garashi thought to himself. The shadow clone that he had left in the forest earlier used Flying Thunder God to teleport to his side. After releasing the shadow clone technique, the immortal technique chakra instantly surged into his body. In the next moment, fresh and natural eye lines appeared on Garashi's face, and at the same time, the gate of potential in his body was opened. Then, Garashi used the jutsu on AI's body as a coordinate and directly teleported behind him and punched him. This move again? Aware of the movement behind him, A used karate chop with 30% of his strength. After all, the shadow left by Minato was still vivid in his mind. Of course, he didn't dare to use all of his strength. Then, he was sent flying like a rubber ball. He was already in a weakened state, and he only used 70% of his strength. Naturally, he was far from being an opponent of Garashi, who used Sage Mode and the first 3 gates. How is this possible? This bastard's strength is actually higher than mine. AI was shocked, recalling the scene in the Chunin exam. Is it the power called Senjutsu he used when he fought against Yuki? Garashi naturally didn't give him time to adjust his state. While AI was still flying in the air, he teleported above him with Flying Thunder God and stabbed down with kunai. However, this time, Killer Bee was faster. He predicted AI's position in advance and pulled his big brother back with a tentacle. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he saw Garashi teleporting over. Killer Bee subconsciously used lightning-style katana to slash at Garashi, but he was blown away by his opponent's heavy punch. But while he was flying, he didn't forget to use his tentacles to pull AI away. As an important factor in determining the direction of this war, even in the middle of the battle, many people were still paying attention to the battle in the central area. Therefore, seeing Garashi alone suppressed the A and B combination, many Yunin ninjas felt a chill in their hearts. Why is this happening? Wood Leaf didn't have the power to fight back last time. It's all because of the monster named Shimizu Garashi. He's too strong. Even the two of them aren't his opponents. The group of jonins in the conference room were also stunned. Even they felt that the A and B combination was extremely difficult to deal with, but they were suppressed by Garashi so miserably. Seeing this, they couldn't help but think, why do I feel that he's a jonin, and we're the chunin? On the battlefield, Garashi pretended to be surprised. It's obviously a clone, but it still hasn't disappeared after suffering such a heavy injury. Killer Bee gasped for breath. This is no ordinary clone. It's my octopus foot clone. Garashi's eyes were serious, as expected of the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Even a clone is so difficult to deal with. It seems that to stop your actions, I have to use a seal. With that, Garashi teleported again with Flying Thunder God. However, this time, there was a slight deviation in his positioning. Huh. This is. Don't underestimate him. AI's thunderous punch landed squarely on Shushi's body with a thunderous roar. Pfft. Garashi spat out a mouthful of blood, and this time, it was his turn to be sent flying. Fortunately, AI was now at the end of his rope, and Garashi was in Sage Mode, so his injuries were not too serious. He pressed his right hand on the ground, and did a backflip to stabilize himself. Even so, Shushi was still surprised. Ahem, I actually made a mistake in my positioning. Shushi took a closer look and saw that AI's left arm was dripping with blood. Even the bones were faintly visible. AI had torn off the part of his left arm that had the Flying Thunder God technique, skin and flesh. That's ruthless. Garashi sighed. This time, he was indeed careless, forgetting that this was a ruthless person who dared to kill a Tensho with his physical body. Brother, are you okay? Killer Bee asked worriedly. I'm fine, as long as my right arm is still there, I can cooperate with your Thunder God Hot Blade. AI's face was firm, and he said while enduring the pain. Then let's do it one last time. Killer Bee reminded, continuously firing by Jidama, my body is reaching its limit. Chapter 142. Of course, they didn't directly use Thunder Slaughter Hot Blade. Against ordinary enemies, their combination technique could be so fast that the opponent couldn't react. However, Garashi was different. His speed and reaction were too fast. They had to create as many opportunities as possible. After looking at each other, Aya used his remaining chakra to activate his body and attacked Garashi once again. My body can completely keep up with his movements. Garashi made a judgment and faced him head-on. His Sage Mode and 8 inner hidden gates also had a time limit. It was hard to say who would benefit if this dragged on. The speed of the two was extremely fast. In the eyes of the surrounding people, it was like two bolts of lightning were constantly colliding. Damn it, I'm actually suppressed in a head-on confrontation. AI felt sullen. If his left arm was intact or if his body was in a better state, it wouldn't be like this. Fortunately, he wasn't fighting alone. After Garashi's arms blocked AI's heavy punches, his right leg quickly kicked out like a sharp axe towards AI's waist. But at this moment, a short knife suddenly stabbed in. Clang! The strength of Killer Bee's clone naturally couldn't compare to the main body. As soon as they touched, the short knife was kicked out without any suspense. However, this also gave AI some time to breathe. He suddenly increased the strength of his right arm, and a powerful electric current spread towards Garashi. Z. Even with Garashi's current body, he still felt a sense of numbness. Seeing that the sneak attack worked, AI raised his right arm and smashed down again. Garashi was unable to dodge and could only open his mouth to spit out acid. Immortal art, acid spray. AI could sense the danger of the acid, but he still didn't dodge. Instead, his arm chopped down even faster. Obviously, he was planning to die together with Garashi. But at the last moment, he was pushed out by an octopus leg. Z. The acid fell on the ground and instantly corroded a deep gully. Although it looked terrifying, AI couldn't help but curse, "Why did you stop me?" Killer Bee was a little helpless. "My stupid brother, do you really think that he can't move?" AI turned his head and saw that Garashi had retreated to the side. He didn't look like he had just been paralyzed. Seeing this scene, AI could not help but curse in his heart, "Bastard. You only know how to bully an honest person like me." But no matter what he thought, the battle continued. Garashi took the initiative to rush towards Killer Bee, who always got in the way at critical moments, and threw a simple punch. Monstrous strength plus immortal mode plus 8 inner hidden gates was indeed very simple. Killer Bee hurriedly crossed his swords in front of him. With a crisp sound, the swords broke, and Killer Bee was sent flying like a cannonball. "Bastard. You can beat me, but you can't beat me." AI's legs were infused with chakra, and he charged at Garashi furiously. "Then I'll hit you." Garashi stopped chasing and turned around to throw a punch. Boom! A ripple spread out, and the compressed air radiated out like an air cannon. Some of the ninjas nearby couldn't avoid it and were directly blown away by the sudden gust of wind. Shushi was also forced to take 2 steps back, but it was sent flying and somersaulting twice. Damn it, if I was in my peak state, the loser would definitely not be me. AI was angry, but he also knew that if he was in his peak state, his opponent would not fight with him. But at this moment, he realized that when Qingshui Shushi turned around, another small tail had split out from his body. Years of tacit understanding made him quickly understand Killer Bee's plan. "I must be prepared in advance, I can't waste Shibi's effort." AI attacked while accumulating his strength. Garashi didn't seem to notice the difference between the two. Seeing that AI was sent flying by him, he seized the opportunity and rushed towards Killer Bee again. Mountain Mist. There weren't any fancy techniques, only terrifying strength. This incomparably powerful punch caused the surrounding air to emit an unbearable sound of sonic booms. Killer Bee's eyes were panicked. It seemed that he was frightened by the sudden blow and forgot to dodge, and then he was hit head-on. Boom! Killer Bee's eyes bulged, and white foam appeared at the corner of his mouth. The vibrating air rippled out from behind him, stirring up a gust of wind. The intense pain made Killer Bee's consciousness a little blurred, but he still didn't forget his task. After his body returned to its original form, he firmly tied Garashi. At the same time, AI and a smaller Killer Bee were running at each other towards Shushi. Nyo Lei Zai Hot Blade. Garashi subconsciously used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, but this time, the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, which had always been successful, failed. Garashi was keenly aware that the octopus leg attached to his body was oozing black ink. This change reminded him that the Hachibi seemed to have a powerful sealing technique called the 100 Million Fury and Countless Troubles Flowing Slave. Although this sealing technique was most effective when he was in his complete form, from the looks of the current situation, the other party only needed to seal him for an instant to do so. As expected of the A and B combination of Yunin. At this moment, Garashi had the impulse to praise them. To be fair, this can definitely be regarded as the most difficult battle except for the battle with Asma when he first entered the ninja school. After all, at that time, he had too few cards in his hand, and he needed to rely on psychological hints before the battle to barely defeat Asma. It's a pity that I can use too many methods now. Senjutsu, Kami-e, soft mud. Like the soft body of a slug, Garashi seemed to have turned into a mollusk, and his head fell back softly, making the A and B combination's Nyo Lei Zai hot blade hit nothing, but the small killer bee was directly hit by AI, who couldn't stop in time. Garashi twisted his body, and in turn, wrapped the tentacle killer bee tightly. Senjutsu, Demon Sealing Seal. Before the people on the field could react, the large octopus tentacle was sealed in the scroll prepared by Garashi in advance. Damn it, I still failed. A gritted his teeth and looked at Garashi, as if he wanted to imprint Garashi in his heart. Compared with the so-called failure of letting Namikaze Minato escape last time, this was a real failure, and he was defeated by a 10-year-old kid. Big brother, get ready to retreat, we have lost. Seeing A's painful face, the small killer bee hurriedly reminded him. Although he was very unwilling, A also knew that this war was over. Even if they still had a little upper hand in the frontal battlefield, as long as Namikaze Minato and Shimizu Garashi were released from their control, with those two bastards Flying Thunder God Jutsu, ordinary ninjas have no power to fight back. If they continue to persist, it will only increase the casualties. Thinking of this, A had to shout loudly, everyone retreat, B, use the Bijidama to cover us. Many cloud ninjas also saw the scene of Abby and Kuroto being beaten up. Although they were depressed, they had no choice but to slowly retreat. But when they gradually retreated from the occupied area to the beginning of the battle, the Bijidama, which was originally moved to the distance by Minato, suddenly exploded in Yunin's area. Boom! A terrible energy storm swept around, large pieces of rock were lifted into the air, and the trees in the forest were directly broken, as if it was the end of the world. Chapter 143. The ground cracked, and the sand and stones flew. In just a moment, the terrifying energy storm swallowed the lives of nearly 200 Yunin ninjas, and almost all the other Yunin ninjas were injured, screaming in pain on the scorched earth. Why is this happening? Why did Killer Bee Sama's Bijidama fall on our heads? Who will save me? I don't want to die. Although Woodleaf's ninjas were not affected by the energy storm, they were still blown away by the wind. After getting up, they stared blankly at the slaughterhouse in front of them. So terrible. Fortunately, Minato and Garashi are here, otherwise, we would be the unlucky ones. Seeing this scene, A's eyes almost shed tears of blood. No. He subconsciously wanted to rush to Minato, but Killer Bee forcibly held him back. Brother, do you want everyone to die here? But A's palms were bleeding, we can't escape now. Even if I don't use the Bijidama, I can still stop them. B, are you going to transform? No, with your current. There's no time to hesitate. Killer Bee roared, and his body continued to expand, and eventually turned into a huge Bijidama. Woodleaf bastard, Woodleaf idiot, be careful not to be killed by me. Looking at the small octopus leg that suddenly appeared in his hand, A also understood, and pretended to be in pain, and shouted loudly, retreat quickly, don't waste the opportunity that B gave us. The remaining cloud shinobi were also affected by this tragic scene, and all of them gritted their teeth and dragged their weak bodies back to the village. You used your own body to stop us, you really are an excellent ninja. Minato's voice was sincere. If it was any other time, I would be happy to sit down and chat with a brave ninja like you. Killer Bee stared at him. Even if you say something nice, I won't let you go. Minato shook his head slightly, and then issued an order. Everyone, attack together. 10 minutes later, the grilled octopus was freshly baked. Ha! Tailed beasts are truly monsters. Even with so many of us attacking them together, it still took us such a long time. No, the tailed beast is far more terrible than this. If it weren't for the restriction of the Jinchuriki, we wouldn't be able to deal with it. But in the end, we won this war. Now, the only thing we have to do is to cheer and applaud the heroes. Minato Jounin. Garashi Chunin. After learning about the tragic situation of the previous war, most of them were prepared to die in battle. But who would have thought that this war would go so smoothly that they even defeated the enemy with an absolute advantage? And all of this was brought about by those two heroes. However, the two heroes quietly walked to a corner of the battlefield. Hachibi really values him. He didn't even go berserk. Garashi sighed softly as he looked at the grilled octopus in the distance. Garashi, you noticed it too? Minato was surprised. Garashi nodded slightly. Hachibi's clone technique is indeed very powerful, but after all, I sealed part of his chakra, so I can still see it. But brother Minato, is it really okay to let him go like this? Minato sighed. Even the Hachibi is so difficult to kill. If he completely goes berserk regardless of the life and death of his Jinchuriki, at least half of us will die. With that, Minato shook his head and chuckled. However, he left most of his body behind this time. Even if it's Hachibi, it will take at least a year or two to recover. Garashi nodded in agreement. In the next year or two, we should be much more relaxed. Minato looked at Garashi with a smile. While the Hachibi's Jinchuriki is stagnant, Garashi, you are constantly improving. Even if they come back, they won't be able to keep up with our rhythm. On another border, Orochimaru and Jiraiya walked back while holding each other. Hiss. Raikage's attack is still so powerful. Jiraiya gasped in pain. If Tsunade is here, we can try to keep him. Orochimaru's voice was calm, but his pale face became more and more frightening. Jiraiya shrugged helplessly, but this shrug made the wound that was about to heal open again. He grimaced in pain and forced himself to divert his attention. How do you think they are now? Orochimaru asked. You are the one who accompanied them in the special training. Shouldn't you know better than me? How can actual combat be compared with practice? Jiraiya was worried. What if the enemy used some despicable means? No, I'll go to the battlefield over there to take a look. Muttering all the way, as soon as they returned to the camp, the two found that there were lanterns everywhere. Is someone getting married? Jiraiya asked in a daze. Idiot, they should have won. Orochimaru was surprised, and it's most likely a big victory. The ninja army behind the two was also a little restless. They came back after a hard battle. Why did it feel like Minato's team had it easier than them? Jiraiya couldn't help but grab a person and asked, is the battle over Minato's side over? The captured ninja was startled at first, but after recognizing Jiraiya's identity, he shouted excitedly, Jiraiya, Sama, Orochimaru, Sama, we won. We killed at least 500 Yunin ninjas in this battle. One of the A and B team was seriously injured, and the other one was killed by us. Huh? Jiraiya stared and asked in disbelief, what did you say? Even Orochimaru was in a trance for a while. Who died? It's the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Jiraiya's mouth twitched. The Hachibi's Jinchuriki died? Actually, he wasn't too surprised that he was able to defeat his opponent. However, Killer Bee can transform into the Hachibi's complete body. How can such a monster be killed? Seeing that Jiraiya didn't seem to believe it, the ninja who reported became anxious. It's true. Garashi suppressed the A and B team by himself, and Minato even transferred the Baijidama to Yunin's camp. The Hachibi's Jinchuriki directly turned into a giant octopus in order to save people, and then he was killed by us. Hearing his true account, the ninja behind him became restless again. He suppressed the A and B team by himself. This kind of strength is simply unimaginable. Hyuga Hayashi in the crowd was shocked, and he couldn't help but think, maybe, in the future, I can let Hizashi or my children recognize Garashi as their teacher, and then our relationship will be closer. Minato, Shimizu Garashi. Uchiha Hachio sighed in the crowd. Sure enough, Patriarch's vision is amazing. Chapter 144. Walking on the road, Garashi could clearly feel that everyone looked at him with more respect. From time to time, people would greet him enthusiastically, and there were even fanatical young genin rushing out to express their respect. Obviously, his strength has been recognized by everyone. After all, ninjas still speak with their strength. Whether it was saving people from dozens of miles away or using medical ninjutsu to save everyone's lives, the impact was far less than this time. They came to the temporary conference room. Jiraiya and the other two were already waiting here. Sorry, I was delayed on the way. Garashi apologized. The treatment of a hero. Jiraiya had a, I understand, smile on his face. After sitting down, Orochimaru asked seriously, Minato-kun, what was the situation at that time? Garashi and Minato looked at each other and said the truth with a wry smile. After listening, Orochimaru sighed with some regret. It's a pity that we missed this opportunity. It won't be so easy to kill the Hachibi Jinchuriki again. Jiraiya didn't like to hear that. If the Hachibi goes berserk, most of them won't be able to come back. Orochimaru said indifferently, war is inevitably accompanied by sacrifice. As long as we can kill the perfect Jinchuriki, even if they all stay on the battlefield, it's worth it. You cold-blooded stinky snake, you're still as inhumane as before. Jiraiya had no doubt about it. After all, when they were carrying out the mission before, if it weren't for Tsunade's strong opposition, he might have been killed by Orochimaru. Orochimaru said indifferently, ninjas are just tools. Why do tools need humanity? Seeing that the two seemed to be about to quarrel again, Garashi quickly said, Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, please take a look at this. Seeing the scroll in Garashi's hand, Jiraiya curiously asked, is this the scroll you used to seal the octopus leg? Garashi shook his head slightly, there's a technique in it. Minato was stunned for a moment before he asked in surprise, could it be that your idea has been completed? Garashi nodded emotionally. Yes, it took me 4 years to complete this sealing technique. It's never easy to develop a jutsu. The most direct comparison is that it took Minato 3 years to develop Rasengan in the original manga, but it only took Naruto 7 days to learn it. Needless to say, he didn't have much time to develop new techniques. What is it? While Jiraiya was still scratching his head in confusion, Garashi tore open the scroll, and a warm fluorescent light emanated from the scroll. This is the celestial palm technique? Jiraiya's eyes widened, but he quickly understood. You sealed the immortal palm technique in the scroll in advance? Orochimaru quickly realized the key. This technique must be used by a ninja who can use both sealing and medical ninjutsu, or can it be used separately? Also, how difficult is it to cultivate this technique? Obviously, if this technique can't be popularized, or if it's too difficult to cultivate, its value will be greatly reduced. Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Orochimaru is indeed worthy of him. He quickly realized the key to the problem. At first, I developed this technique using myself as a template, but then I felt that maybe not everyone can master both sealing and medical ninjutsu at the same time like me. Jiraiya was secretly complaining on the side. What do you mean maybe not everyone can do it? There were not many people who could do it. But then he thought about it. For Garashi, who is proficient in sealing, medical ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, and senjutsu at the same time, maybe being proficient in these two types of techniques is the basic operation? So, after I developed a special sealing technique for sealing medical ninjutsu, I then developed a combination sealing technique that can be used by 2 people together. As for the difficulty, it's probably at the level of a C-class ninjutsu. This doesn't mean that the time it takes for him to develop a C-class sealing technique is longer than the time it takes to develop an A-class Rasengan. Instead, he first developed an A-class sealing technique, and then simplified it into a C-class technique, the difficulty of which is almost no less than developing a brand new S-class ninjutsu. If it wasn't because he won the first place in the Chunin exam some time ago, and once again looked at the scroll of seals and got some inspiration from it, I'm afraid that he wouldn't be able to complete this technique until now. However, it's all worth it. If it can't be popularized, then the medical scroll is just a gimmick, and it won't bring him much fame. It turned out to be a C-class sealing technique. Orochimaru looked deeply at Garashi. When this medical scroll is popularized, your reputation in everyone's heart may be higher than Sensei's. At least, in the eyes of those who survived because of this scroll, it must be so. Compared to the joy of Woodleaf, Yunan's side was gloomy. Can we really defeat that monster? I heard that those two are just civilian ninjas. You're lying, right? Ordinary people like us can actually defeat the noble Lord Ai and Lord Bai, who is a Jinchuriki. Compared to the heavy losses they suffered in the war, the failure of Team A and Team B, who were treated as heroes and models, was a bigger blow to their spirits. After all, Kyumo is a fighting ninja village. Physical destruction is never a big deal, but the impact of a mental blow is too great. In a small house in the Cloud Thunder Gorge. It's all because I was reckless and radical. I was at a disadvantage from the beginning, which caused Bobby to become like this. Looking at the unconscious Bobby on the bed, Ai said very vexedly. It's not wrong to use schemes, but it's a big mistake to use schemes without brains. I learned it from you, Dad. What did you say? Rakich's eyes widened. Dad, I'm wild on the outside and delicate on the inside, but you're wilder on the inside than on the outside. After a little bit of banter to blow away some of the heavy atmosphere, Rakich said with a dignified face, I paid enough attention to that Woodleaf kid, but I didn't expect that I still underestimated him. Because of Shimizu Garashi, the direction of this war has completely changed. Ai clenched his fists and was furious. I must kill him and that Namikaze Minato to avenge Bai. Rakich coldly scolded, what do you have to kill them? Without Bai's cover, you'll die if you fight them. Speaking of Bai, Ai couldn't help but ask, Dad, when will Bai recover? Rakich looked at the bed, where Killer Bee's body had shrunk by half, and sighed in a low voice, it will take a year or two to recover. Damn it. Ai punched the wall next to him, and his elbow instantly went through the wall. Suddenly, he remembered what he said after the Chunin exam. By the way, Dad, didn't you plan to assassinate that Shimizu Garashi? When will we start? He didn't say anything, but when he mentioned assassination, Rakich subconsciously slapped him. Without Bai's help, how can I assassinate him? Ai finally reacted. If Shimizu Garashi was attacked, he would most likely inform Namikaze Minato. At that time, they would have to face two people who could use Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and the difficulty of assassination would be 10 times higher. Thinking of this, Ai couldn't help but be annoyed. What should we do? Just leave him like this? Rakich said with a cold face, first, we have to wait for Bai to recover, and then we have to wait for an opportunity. Opportunity? An opportunity for Kirin to join the war. Chapter 145. It's been 2 years since the Third Shinobi World War. During this period, countless ninjas sacrificed and fell, but there were also many who grew, rose, and wrote their own legends in the shinobi world. Among them, the most popular ones were naturally Woodleaf's twin stars, Golden Flash and Woodleaf's Light. Of course, the reason why Shimizu Shushi was given this title was not because he killed more enemies than Minato, but because Konoha's shinobi and allies survived because of him. The emergence of medical scrolls almost broke the balance of the battlefield, allowing many ninjas who couldn't get timely treatment to return to the battlefield after a period of rest. Not to mention the complete change in casualties, but more importantly, the psychological gap between the ninjas on both sides. Both sides were seriously injured, but one side could only take blood-increasing pills to survive, while the other side was equivalent to having medical ninjas to treat them. The gap was too big. For this reason, Kumogakure and Iwagakure used a lot of spies to target Konoha's medical and logistics forces. Unfortunately, Konoha's secrecy in this regard was too good. Even if it was just a C-class fuinjutsu, Konoha placed a seal on everyone who learned it to ensure that it wouldn't leak out. Land of Kawa, Tanjin Village. Outside the village, a group of Yunin ninjas looked at the enemy in front of them and couldn't help but retreat. There is a tattoo in the corner of his eyes. Is he Shimizu Garashi, the light of Woodleaf's light? Run. According to the village rules, we can directly abandon the mission if we meet him. No wonder the ninjas of the village disappeared in Tanjin. It turned out to be Woodleaf's plot. However, the opposite ninja frowned. Are you kidding me? With Garashi's strength, do you think he needs to use Sage Mode to deal with trash like you? Hearing his words, the group of Yunin ninjas were even more frightened. If it's not Shimizu Garashi, is it his subordinate, the alabaster devil snake Mizuki? Damn! I actually met this madman. Sure enough, Mizuki's face gradually became cold. You think I'm Garashi, are you humiliating him? The group of Yunin ninjas couldn't keep up with his brain circuit. Shouldn't he be happy to be regarded as his idol? I'm not happy, so you all go to hell. Ah! Screams of panic and despair echoed in the forest, and the surrounding birds were frightened and fled. Soon, Mizuki, who had restored his original appearance, returned to Tang Village. This was quite a rich village, even during the war, because it gave enough benefits. Woodleaf and Yunin tacitly avoided it. After all, it was such a high-quality land, its land was destroyed. However, Tanjin this village was too warm. Mizuki wore. As soon as he entered the village, 4 villages uncle's village young man, want a life? Day holy churches, store s blind, miss. Do you want to consider it? Handsome young man is also fine. Mizuki War's mouth twitched. Since he practiced the senjutsu of the Ryuchi cave, his aura became more and more gloomy and cold. Even many people in the village didn't dare to approach him, but these uncles and aunties were not afraid at all. In desperation, he had to take out a pendant and hang it around his neck. There was a ring on the outside, and a triangle pattern in the middle. Seeing this, the originally enthusiastic uncles and aunties scattered in an instant. Oh, he has already joined the church. Boring. Let's go cheat, ahem, let's find the next lucky tourist. Mizuki War shook his head. The style of this village was really out of place during the war. Returning to the church where he stayed before, more than a dozen ninjas greeted him warmly. Most of them were ninjas of the same period as Mizuki War, and now they were assigned to the special operations team led by Garashi. But for Mizuki War, he was only familiar with a few people, such as Asma, Kurinai, Ibixi, and Metke. Ha, Mizuki War is back. How is it? Did you get the information? Mizuki War just nodded indifferently, and the ninjas around him have long been accustomed to his reaction, so naturally, they didn't show anything strange. The disappearance of our ninjas in Tangin shouldn't be caused by Yunin, and like us, they also have ninjas missing here. Hearing Mizuki War's information, everyone's expression became serious. Yunin also has ninjas missing. It seems that this is not an accident. Is it Tangin's ninjas? Impossible. A small Tangin village dares to plot against Yunin and Woodleaf at the same time? Let's listen to what Garashi Jonin has to say. Speaking of this, everyone couldn't help but cast a look of admiration at the young ninja. Because of his outstanding military service, Garashi was promoted to Jonin as early as half a year ago, directly breaking the record of the major ninja villages. In this regard, no one raised an objection. Whether it is military service or reputation, he has reached a peak. About, knock knock. Just as Garashi was about to speak, there was a sudden knock on the door. Please come in. A kind-looking old man came in with bowls and plates and put them in front of everyone. Ninja-sama, if you are hungry, you can taste the special food of our Tangin village, especially this clear soup. which is as famous as the hot spring of our Tangyin village. Sorry to trouble you. No, you have worked hard. After saying that, he very consciously retreated. Everyone looked at each other, then lowered their voices and discussed. Is there a problem with these food? Do you suspect that he poisoned it? This old man is kind, he doesn't look like a good person at first glance. Well, I think Naruto-sama may have something to say. The Inuzuka clan ninja sniffed. There should be no poison, but there seems to be a strange smell. Huh. This time it didn't develop according to the normal process. It seems that we have wronged him. Garashi shook his head slightly. No poison doesn't mean that it is safe. Some secret techniques only need some specific media to activate. Hearing Garashi say this, everyone was instantly alert. Garashi, what did you find? Garashi picked up the clear soup and said, it's the smell of blood, to be precise, it's the smell of human blood. This clear soup was so clear that the bottom could be seen. Not even a trace of blood could be seen. If it weren't for his strong perception, he might not have found it strange. What? Human blood. Everyone's face changed quickly. If it was the blood of poultry, it would be fine, but mixed with human blood, it's probably not a good thing. Garashi, what should we do next? Do you want to investigate separately? Garashi said calmly, we didn't come here for a vacation, and we don't have time to investigate slowly. Since we have found clues, let's directly investigate. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.